Who was Roddy Piper really? A villain or a hero in disguise? Was he the loudest voice in the room or the smartest man in the business? How did a kid with a bagpipe and a chip on his shoulder become one of wrestling's most unpredictable icons? From the mean streets to Madison Square Garden, from the squared circle to Hollywood, Piper never followed the script. He rewrote it. But just when you thought you had all the answers, he changed the questions. Welcome to episode 70 of the Stevie Richards Show. Welcome back to the home studio and welcome to an exciting episode 70. Exciting for me because in episode 70 of the Stevie Richards Show, we are going to talk about one of my favorite wrestlers of all time and one of my favorite movies of all time. It's going to be a multi-part episode, so take a drink, future episode. And the person that coined that phrase is my co-host, James Romero.
Did I? I thought it was you.
No, you did future episode, take a drink. You were the first one to do it.
Yeah. Oh, well, all right then.
So when you get tired of me, you can copyright that and you can win the whole legal battle.
Yeah, why not?
CM Punk, Colt Cabana.
Well, yeah, why not? It's good to have another feather in my bow, or whatever the saying is, who knows. Right then, we're going to be talking about Roddy Piper this day. And as Stevie said, it's going to be a multi-part episode, like so many of our episodes are. Quite frankly, there's always so much more to talk about. We like to go more in depth than basically, I think, anybody else that I know of anyway in these subjects. And we've got a lot about Roddy Piper. We've also got stuff in the news, what went right and what went wrong to close out the show as well. And I've warned Stevie, I've got a hard out for this show of about, it's probably going to be about 2 hours 20. So I look forward to this 4-hour episode commencing. Intros, we are going to do the quick version of this. PWTs, the Stevie Richards Show is on PWTs. Links are in the description. BWO, Blue World Order official t-shirts available there, as well as Stevie Richards Show merchandise and more coming soon. Stevie Richards Fitness is on YouTube. There's going to be more changes and more uploads happening there as well. Please join Stevie over there. The Stevie Richards Cameo, always blowing up, always doing as well as has ever done or better, and that's because he gives you more than your money's worth, and I keep telling him to up the price and he won't. So once again, take advantage while the price is far more reasonable than I would suggest either way. And once again, I don't get any of the money either way. It's fine by me. But the reason why Stevie is so well liked and well respected and well reviewed on the Cameo platform is because he gives you, once again, your money's worth and so much more, as well as time, research on you, everything you could possibly hope for. And most importantly, the Stevie Richards Show Patreon. What did we watch this past Monday and what we're going to be seeing this Monday, Stevie?
This past Monday was actually Samoa Joe, Kurt Angle. How they didn't do more with both of those guys in that storyline or angle. It was just kind of ready-made for that sports-based entertainment type feel to it. And that was about the closest to what MMA would be in a pro wrestling sense, in my opinion. So you check that out. This Monday starts the series of Roddy Piper watch-alongs with where else? WrestleMania 1, Madison Square Garden, just Madison Square Garden. The presentation, the microphone from the ceiling that you kept saying was kind of like hanging. It was hanging like a Money in the Bank briefcase over there. Real cops escorting him to and from the ring. And of course, the first kind of crossover feel to a pay-per-view, not a pay-per-view, but closed circuit presentation for WrestleMania 1, with just about every celebrity you can think of, local, national, worldwide celebrities all involved in WrestleMania 1.
Here's a fun fact for you. Do you know what the first WWF pay-per-view, like proper pay-per-view was, on pay-per-view?
I do not.
The Wrestling Classic, the tournament. Same year.
Oh, wow. That's a blast from the past, the Wrestling Classic. That was kind of like a precursor to King of the Ring in a way, if you think about it, tournament-based stuff.
Was it? Because I think the King of the Ring also started in 85. Because I know Don Morocco was the first King of the Ring winner. And that went until 91 untelevised, I think. I know Bret Hart's the only two-time King of the Ring winner. Because he won the last untelevised one and the first one on pay-per-view as well.
Yeah, and also Jim Duggan was the first Royal Rumble winner when they had it on free TV, right?
Televised.
That was the first.
That's the first televised one. Who won the first untelevised one in the WWF a few months earlier? Apparently, it was a disaster as well.
You have to tell me about that.
One-man gang, I believe.
That makes sense. But that was a Pat Patterson idea, the Royal Rumble, where guys come out every couple minutes, and it's kind of morphed now into something much, much bigger.
I believe the the Royal Rumble was like a combination of two different ideas from San Francisco, which you're right, Pat Patterson did sort of coin. I don't know if he coined the term. I'd be interested to see who came up with the Royal Rumble trademark, the name. I wonder who that might be. Could have been Pat.
Yeah, it's kind of weird too, because if they had the King of the Ring and the Royal Rumble kind of existing at the same time, wouldn't you think if you were splitting hairs, if people look at that, it sort of sounds like the same thing, Royal, King, how they both can kind of have their own identity with those kind of similar names is interesting.
I'm going to be really, really anal now. Don Morocco, of course,
Channel's
the first
gone,
King of the
by the
Ring.
way. The channel's gone.
The anal channel's gone again. July 8th, 1985. The Wrestling Classic was November 7th, 1985. So the King of the Ring preceded the Wrestling Classic in the first pay-per-view.
Oh, wow. That's why you're a encyclopedia of wrestling knowledge.
Oh, no, that's why I can Google these things.
No, but you have a lot of facts, especially when it comes to the 90s. The 80s, you might have to Google, but the 90s, you set me straight a lot of different ways in that one. Just in that one clip, got it all wrong.
Well, luckily, we're going back to the 80s now. We're going to be talking about Roddy Piper for the first half of this show, probably a bit more than that as well. Now, this is very much a suggestion of Stevie Richards. Is Roddy Piper your favourite of all time? I don't think I've ever asked you this. Who's your favourite of all time?
Well, I would say my favorite of all time would have been Shawn Michaels at a time because of I appreciated what Shawn had in the AWA and everything and kind of followed his career. I wanted to be that guy like most people who say watch ECW and then see guys like the Dudleys and Taz and everybody go to WWE and they're like, oh, I remember that guy first. I saw him before you did type thing. Like the fans want to have that discovery type feeling. That's what I had with Shawn. But, the standard ones. But for some reason, you're talking about Hogan, Flair, those types of people. But for some reason, Piper always stood out because even though I was a fan, I wasn't smartened up. I always paid attention to the fact that Piper never really got buried by Hogan, never really got vanquished from Hogan. Every time Hogan and Piper got together, I always thought Piper was going to become the champion because for some reason he protected his character and every storyline he was in much better, even although I didn't understand the terminology, the psychology. And then when I did, I was like, wow, how did this guy do it? Everybody, including Bret Hart at WrestleMania 8, get out of here. Or 9, I'm sorry. If he could have done it at WrestleMania 9, Vegas. No, this is your chance, Bret. I don't want the title. Oh, wait, the people want me to do it.
Yes. I'm sorry. I was looking at you funny then because I misheard and thought Piper at WrestleMania 9?
No, Bret.
Yeah. That is amazing. If you don't know what Stevie's talking about, you need to look at it on the Patreon or just find it on YouTube, right?
On the short we did. It
was on a short as well. It's amazing.
Yeah, he made a joke about Hogan being like, he's basically acting like, should I? As he's literally pushing Bret down the aisle back to the locker room. But with all that, with Hogan's reputation for doing that and slaying every beast that's even 3-4 times bigger than Piper, but this guy, for some reason, up until WCW, had never been beat by Hogan. I want to know. I mean, he's not here, rest in peace, but I would have loved, and I never had the opportunity, to ask him how he pulled that off. Because he doesn't strike me as a particular political person backstage.
Oh, yeah. Right, so.
Oh, sorry.
The story goes, Piper in 84, chip on his shoulder. You can just see in the performances, he's just angry. And I don't think he's that coked up as well. And that's very much on his, him saying that as well. Like some of the, I think he said in an interview, I'd be surprised if I ever made it to 65. And he didn't, unfortunately. But that's not the point. When he got back to the WWF, now there's the story we're going to talk about in a bit with the bagpipes. When he first went to the WWF, he was ribbed. Freddie Blassie stuffed the bagpipes full of toilet paper, so when he went out and tried to play, they didn't play. So basically just tried to kill him off on his first night in the company. And he basically had a chip on his shoulder for years over that. When he got back, he was like, I will not be messed with. I will not be taken advantage of ever again, kind of thing. And
Can I stop you for one second right there? I'll stop you. To me, that's a different definition than being political, than being whatever. I knew he had a chip on his shoulder. I had a chip on my shoulder. Every wrestler has that chip in a way where the I'll show you, you'll see comes from. But doing that and saying never again, to me, that's like a character of a man. You're not going to mess with me again, and I'm going to believe in my character. I'm going to protect it. You can put Steve Austin. We're going to touch on that. I didn't even know about that podcast thing that happened between each of them. But Steve Austin, the same way. And then in wrestling, and I really need to, I can go into greater detail later, but what do? It's a bully environment. So what do you do? What Piper doing? He's coming back and he's going to punch the bully right in the nose, and the bully's never going to mess with him again. And people aren't going to go with him and say, well, we'll just give him, we don't have to put too much thought in this because Piper will do it. I mean, I put him kind of in the right with the context you're giving right now. I may change a little bit with more detail, but I can see where he's coming from. Never again.
This also goes to his morality as well. It's when he went back to the WWF, he refused to run against Don Owen in Portland. He refused to appear on any cards. He refused to appear on any cards in like one or two other places. I think maybe St. Louis. That might just be me misremembering. But he said, those promoters treated me well. I will never go against them. I will never appear on a card while they're still operating in the same territory because they treat me well and they deserve the same in kind. He was the only person, I believe, to do that in the WWF. He's one of the few people in wrestling, it seems, as intense and kind of weird at times, I guess, that Roddy Piper was. He was like fiercely loyal as well at the same time to the people who were loyal to him.
And he's definitely a unicorn when it comes to that. Once again, I don't term that in the way of being political. I term that in the way of standing your ground, standing for what you believe in, and standing by what you want and protecting your business and your brand. I'm just amazed, even with guys that tried to do that, they still got sucked into the Hogan vortex, never to be seen again.
Now, I think he eventually would appear in those places I mentioned, but not during the, initial sort of like a
when
invasion.
Vince was trying to expand and put them all out of business.
Yeah, basically. But by the time it was like 86, like the writing was on the wall, and I think he started appearing in those places. To answer your earlier question, the rationale that Roddy Piper gave to the question of, well, why did he never lose to Hogan, was because he always said, as soon as I lost to Hogan, I would have lost my heat, and therefore I would have been expendable after that. And I think also his opinion was I was a smaller guy. He's like 245 pounds, 6'1". Somehow that's a smaller guy, only in professional wrestling, basically. But he sort of felt that if he lost, he was the smaller guy as well, physically, and therefore he would not have been able to come back from it as a character, which I don't know if that's true or not, but, the world's a different place than it was in wrestling, especially 40 years ago compared.
Oh, absolutely. If you lose a match, especially how many people have gone up there as monsters, had their run with Hogan, made a ton of money. You talked about Orndorff on Patreon. He didn't get the surgery or take time off because he was cashing huge checks working, he said, the man, Hogan. Now, Piper looks at it like, now how much did people believe Orndorff was a threat to Hogan after, besides the multiple face and heel turns? That doesn't help people emotionally invest in you, but Piper's right. And hell, I'm still amazed because Piper could have stood his ground and said that and explained it to Vince. And what would Vince say? We'll just do it this time. I'll make it up to you, pal, like he said to Punk. And it still didn't work, but he didn't get fired at the same time. Up until the day he lived stuff. We'll get to that probably in part 2 or 3. But really, think about it. He was able to do that and still have maybe political power or maybe just drawing power or maybe just the fact that Vince accepted he's different, he's weird, he's quirky. It's what the wrestling business needs is characters. And if I keep that, I have another main event, the ultimate beast for Hogan to eventually slay years down the line. Plus, Piper got other baby faces over as a heel without really just taking a straight up pin if you think about it.
I think the first time he got pinned in the WWF, not WWF because I'd have to look at the match listings, was Bret at WrestleMania 8. I don't think he ever took a straight loss like that apart from to Bret because he loved Bret that much. And he's also claimed that, him and the Hart family were cousins. But I think if you go back far enough that everyone's a cousin, kind of like everyone's related to Genghis Khan. They weren't cousins, is the answer.
I was going to say, I don't know if they're cousins. They're like cousins, like when you watch Cops, and it's like, oh, the drugs are my cousins. Now we got flagged for the episode. I said the word.
Good. Don't worry, we'll check the box. I was going to ask this later. We might as well ask this now. How many personal interactions did you have with Roddy over the years? And was he, I guess, one of the few people, they say never meet your heroes. But he seems to be the exception to the rule. You seem to have more, admiration for him after you met him.
Well, I only had maybe, I would say, one handful, the maximum. Maybe 4 to 5 times I ran into Piper, whether it was WWE, an independent show in Wisconsin, and then I believe some autograph conventions or, wrestling conventions. The thing I did whenever I was around Piper, and this WrestleMania story that I told before in Seattle, WrestleMania 19, where he had the cloak off and he had Hogan and Vince there. Right there, I maximized the time I was around him, whether it was that Wisconsin show where he did a live Piper spit there on the Indies, way after I was in WWE, and then those autograph conventions. He'd be one of the people I would search out. And I can't believe I never asked that question about how did you ever avoid doing a job to Hogan, much less jobs to a lot of people. I didn't even realize that. But he was just one of those guys, just gave off an energy to me. I'm sure there was a time where, like you said, chip on the shoulder and probably a guy you would avoid because you didn't know what you were going to get. But anytime I said, maybe just remember my name the second time I bumped into him, maybe remember my name after WWE, a little bit of the child in me and the mark in me, like Roddy Piper remembers me. He meets a million people. And I was always asking questions. And most of the questions I asked outside of like, how do you put up with these scumbags? And he laughed. And he said a lot of help. And now we know what that help was. It was just somebody I gravitated towards. Now, I never was around him enough to have the familiarity breeds contempt type thing, being with somebody, say, 24 hours a day on the road. But whenever I was around him, it was a very positive experience. And maybe because he was so disarming and so willing to have a real conversation and not just put himself over or talk at you, it just felt like, somebody I would, because the bar is set so low in wrestling for good experiences with wrestlers, even the ones that wrestle, so I gravitated and held on to those memories.
When I look at Roddy Piper, out of character, more in-depth interviews kind of thing, I always feel a tinge of sadness because, one, hugely charismatic, very interesting person. You never quite know if he's working you kind of thing or, putting his spin on whatever it might be. But I also, I guess, reading his book, seeing various interviews of his talking about his childhood and whatnot, he just always seemed damaged. And it always kind of breaks my heart a little bit. Like he's already got my sympathy before he's even said anything, because he always just struck me as somebody who just sort of crawled out of the muck of a very, very harsh childhood and is still dealing with those issues like throughout his life.
Yeah, there's a fear with that too, and that you carry with you that motivates you. Like I've been homeless on little stretches throughout the early part of my career, and even one time during it, not having any place to go, being on my own, trying to figure out, especially early days, early 20s. He was a teenager way back in the day trying to figure that out. So you have this fear, and I still have the fear today, by the way, of losing everything and becoming homeless. That's something that, because it only takes one really, like with the spine infection. If we didn't have insurance and the cost wasn't manageable, it would be in the 5 to 6 figures. That could break you. Medical debt, other things, all sorts of things. So Roddy had a much rougher way of doing that, basically being on his own at 14, 15 years old?
He got into the business at 15.
So he was on his own, but he was on his own trying to scrap earlier than that, 1 to 2 years earlier. Like in the early teens. You know who he reminds me of when the interviews are excellent, and you make a great point about the sadness or you feel the pain in his voice and his facial expressions. You know who he reminds me of? Because there's such a polarizing difference of emotions between performance and the real person. Robin Williams. So up. When he's interviewed, he has I always sense sadness in those late interviews before he passed away.
Yeah, there's sort of like a subtext of depth that I think they probably won't get credit for unless you know the full story, maybe.
Yeah, or tortured, fear, torture, self-doubt. I mean, Roddy Piper, those interviews also, the vulnerability of those interviews showed that he still had a base of insecurity, of self-doubt, of self-esteem issues that went all the way back to those rough early childhood years. But that's why almost everybody gets into the business, because we're insecure and we want to pretend that we're somebody larger than life. I don't know if that was his. It sounded like he just needed money and he had to fight and do whatever he could to make money. He was surviving.
In a more general term, what made Roddy Piper so great? I mean, how did he stand out? And maybe not just in the WWF or WCW, but, Georgia, Mid-Atlantic. I mean, practically there's no footage of, NWA Hollywood, very little of Portland going around and that kind of thing. But what made him stand out for you the most? And how did he stand out in a sea of incredible characters at that time?
Well, because he didn't have a stereotypical character. He wasn't the body guy. He wasn't the chicken you-know-what heel. Although he could play that and he could be larger than life. Roddy's cadence in his promos, I compare him to with just having a unique aura, the it factor, the way he talked, the little bit of the accent that went in and out here and there, a little bit of the sarcasm, cynicism. Randy Savage. You hear Randy Savage talk, it's Randy Savage. You hear Roddy Piper talk. Who are the two people? I mean, you have Hogan's and Flair's, but for me, I've heard more of the boys imitate Savage and Piper than even Bruce Pritchard would imitate Piper. So if you have the boys and the people in the business showing that you're basically a character that they want to imitate and get the voice down, and sometimes with Jay Lethal and other people get over with the imitation, then you're over huge. Sure, I mean, there's a lot of great characters back in the NWA, even WWF days, but Piper just had the thing, and this is how you have a star on your hands. When even me with 30 plus years, you being a very educated fan with decades of experience and other workers, you can't quite put your finger on one thing that makes them over. That's a star.
When was the first time you saw him?
First time I ever saw Roddy Piper was the Roddy Piper, of course, the Piper's Pit with Snuka. It was Allentown Ag Hall, right, that it happened. And that was the first exposure I had. I had heard Roddy Piper's name. I heard Superfly Jimmy Snuka, and I was like, I've never seen these guys, but I heard the name, and I'm like, does this guy dress like a fly? Because if you're not clued in, right, you hear Superfly. It's kind of like, I always make a joke about this with the names, just to go off for a second. Like, can you imagine standing around normal people, which I've done, and I'm talking to my wife, and I was like, oh, Swingers just called. What? Yeah, I got to talk to Swinger about Dreamer. What? Who are these people? So that's just a little bit of context there. But I saw that, and I was like, this dude just insulted this guy, he's throwing fruit at him. Then he hit him with a coconut in the head, and the whole set came down. That was the moment on Saturday morning TV that I didn't want to watch Spider-Man and Friends anymore. I wanted to watch wrestling, even though I watched the NWA, and I was like, what is this? The Piper segment, the Piper's Pit segment did it for me. I was like, I want to do this. And also, by the way, the fourth wall was broken because the set came down and you got to see there was nothing. I was like, this must be real. Like, look what happened. He didn't mean to do that. Why would you knock the set down? But go ahead.
We're going to talk about Piper's Pit a lot more coming up in this show. I wanted to get to pre-WWF, or his, career-making run, I guess, in the WWF, back to a couple of years earlier in the Carolinas. Roddy Piper was stabbed twice in his career, and this is the kind of, I guess, heat that just doesn't exist anymore. I think the last time that kind of thing existed was maybe the mid-90s, in ECW when Shane threw Gary Wolf down, or even the NWO and Hulk Hogan, joined the NWO and some guy rushed the ring, but it's like, riots just don't happen anymore kind of thing. In fact, have you ever been part of a wrestling show? I guess you were in the arena with the ECW thing with Shane and Gary, but have you ever experienced anything like what we're about to talk about here?
Well, I've had fans follow me home. I've had fans threaten me during the ECW days, during the
podcast
days. Yeah, during the show. Yeah, I mean, I stay away from Jacksonville as much as possible. There we go. I did a double like a little nervous because
you're doing the Hulk Hogan thing in Saturday night's main event. You did the.
Didn't know that until I pointed out the glitch.
Call back. That's Patreon, by the way. I'm sorry, everybody. That's a Patreon exclusive.
Yeah, there's a glitch in the opening of Saturday night's main event that I never got rid of. But I would say probably not for the riot sense of heat. When the fans got set on fire, when they lit the rag on the chair, Mick Foley and Terry Funk, that could have been a stampede right there. The boys fighting the fans at Lulu Temple and ECW, all ECW basically, every show. That's about it. But I've had some real scary things. Not when people threatening to do something and reaching into but never outwardly someone taking a stab at me, figuratively and literally. But the threats were there.
I'll get back to Roddy Piper in a minute, but I never imagined, weirdly, for how intense the ECW arena or ECW fans could be. Very few fights, I believe. Or am I misremembering that? Because I know Shane, someone tried to punch Shane once that he said, but not that many.
For being proudly labeled as smart marks and fans that are intelligent to the business, they sure bought in the Raven and myself's heel act a little bit too much sometimes. They bought into the Shane thing with that. And you have to think Gary was local. So, you know what I mean? People knew Gary personally. I was an introvert. I never left the house, so they didn't know me. but yeah, it happened way more. I don't think fans fought each other in a way, but there would be fans. But you got to remember, too, Atlas Security was there, and those guys were just waiting for somebody to do something. You were more scared of Atlas than the boys.
From people you work with, did you ever hear like any first-hand stories of, fan attacks, riots, kind of? Because there's loads of stories out there in the ether, but, just with somebody telling you that it happened to them, any stories you remember specifically?
Not specifically, but Terry would talk about sometimes, and even in Texas, where the Funks are from, that sometimes, especially, I think Terry had talked about when he went to Memphis and did some stuff at Lawler. That was the year of the empty arena match, I believe they had, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Egg sucking dog, right? And that's where he did the egg sucking dog for Lawler.
Mm-hmm.
Promoters. Another thing he said about, did he say like, I hate your mom, I hate your dad, I hate your wife, I hate your kids, something like that. Terry or somebody said something like all the way down.
If it's what I'm thinking of, is your wife, what is it? Is it your wife's a whore, and then it's like your mistress is a whore?
No. But that's where Terry called. He called, when you're talking Mick Foley, your wife's a whore, Dewey's a whore. His son Dewey. I think he said that, which is Terry. But Terry, I mean, anybody going through Memphis, there was what that term was, white heat, remember? Where it's so quiet, something is going to happen. I'm sure people, even in the days when Dirty White Boy Tony Anthony, like pretty much tied up Tom Pritchard and dragged him around that rodeo thing by the back of the truck, I'm sure that like it happened way more often. Oh, the gangsters in Smoky Mountain, come on. You don't think people took a swipe at them or wanted to shoot them?
They did. I'm sure
that's a rhetorical question.
Yeah. New Jack said he used to get pulled by the police like way more after he was on TV there as well.
But what I'm saying is this exists like territories up until a certain point. When it became, I guess, a worldwide brand like WWE, Yes and no. It really depends on the town you go to. Let's not forget Oregon. They bought into it with that weekly TV. I'm sure Raven had to deal with that on a weekly basis.
With maybe the right to censor era, did you? I mean, you always got tons of booze and anything, but did you ever say something where the fans were actually like taken aback? Like they didn't boo.
Oh,
They
yeah.
were,
Oh, yeah. When I was in Canada, I got in a lot of trouble because we had politicians at ringside in Toronto at the Sky Dome. And I started just rattling off all the taxes that they paid and America was better and all this stuff. And I had to apologize afterwards.
to who? Like just them personally,
To
or
the
did you have to go on the?
politicians.
Did you have to do it on the microphone?
Politicians. No, I just, they were kind of backstage. I was talking about 53% tax and no freedom and all this stuff on the house show. And everybody, the referee is just like, no, stop it. I think it was Corderas or somebody. So they were well clued in, and I probably shouldn't have been saying that.
I'm going to give you the story. This actually comes from Sergeant Slaughter, so he's very much involved in this. And this is the Roddy Piper stabbing incident. Number 2, in fact. We were in Raleigh, North Carolina, and back then we were all our protection, Slaughter recalled. We protected each other. There wasn't any police. That's amazing. I sort of think, you're just talking about, for the Patreon subscribers, by the way, or the non-Patreon subscribers, which obviously I encourage you to sign up for. WrestleMania 1, we were watching the entrances, and Roddy Piper just surrounded both sides with real policemen. And it makes for such a more powerful image than arena security. Or like back in the day, in the Manchester Evening News Arena, not too far from my house, they all wore yellow blazers, canary yellow blazers. It's not the same.
It really seemed like that was just for the Garden. I've never seen, maybe, in Boston, the Maple Leaf Gardens back in the day, I think they had cops too, although the Toronto one had that ramp, right, that you walk down, or was that Boston?
Which one? Say again.
They had the raised ramp like WCW had for a while. I think that was Toronto.
I don't think it was.
Gardens.
That was Toronto. Boston was like yellow. Like it all seems to have this yellow tinge, I guess, because the Celtics played there and there's the basketball.
Yeah, but
floor.
I'm talking about the entryway. You were above
yeah. That was
I
think that was Toronto. Yeah, because the camera was always at an angle, wasn't it? The hard cam. It was
down. You saw the ramp on an angle down
that
way.
Yeah.
But the Garden was the only place. Philadelphia, even sometimes the Spectrum, that was the arena back when I was growing up. Sometimes, but not really. If anything, you would see the agents sometimes in the entryway, much like the Garden, where you saw him right before everybody went out. Hey, get out there, Hogan and Mr. T. That's another bonus watch along. Piper's Pit with Tony Garea. That's a new one.
So Piper and Slaughter were standing off camera watching Ivan Koloff wrestle a match when they saw that a man near a hallway concession stand was beating a little girl. Piper told Slaughter, "I don't like that," and took off to stop the man's assault on the child. Slaughter stated that Piper separated the child from the man, and after he was sure he was no longer in danger, he chased after the assailant. She was no longer in danger. Slaughter ran after Piper and found him pinning the man down when 2 police officers came to arrest the abuser, but Piper wanted to talk to the man after he was arrested, and Slaughter noticed a knife on the ground that had blood on its handle. Quote again from Slaughter, "I just folded it and held it for quite a while in my hand to give it to the police officer," he said. So while we're watching them interrogate the guy, Roddy kept asking the main police officer, "Can I just talk to the guy?" The officer declined, obviously. Quote again, "Then Roddy took his thumb off his chest and said," I've skipped a bit here, "Why are you holding the thumb on the chest?" And Roddy said, "Because he stabbed me." Slaughter said, and the blood hit the officer right between the eyes 3 times with each heartbeat before he realised what was going on. Slaughter put his hand on Piper's chest to compress the injury, while Piper kept insisting that he be allowed to talk to his attacker. When the police refused his request, Slaughter was joined by fellow wrestler Don Canodal, who took him to a local hospital. So in the hospital, we don't need the rest of it really, but essentially he was like an inch away from getting stabbed in the heart. And this wasn't even wrestling related, it was just him doing the honourable thing and stopping a poor girl getting beaten by the parent, I guess. And one more stabbing as well, and this does relate directly to wrestling. Roddy Piper was feuding with Chavo Guerrero in the Los Angeles territory, which has got a very big Hispanic population. He was mocking Chavo in a... not before the big show. Is it the Hollywood Bowl? What's the big arena called?
Yeah, I think
the
it's
Olympic.
the Hollywood Bowl.
Is it the Olympic? Actually,
I'm not sure. I know they had the present day or more modern NWA Hollywood. I believe it was the Hollywood Bowl that they have that. but it could be the Olympic. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it might be the Olympic Auditorium. I can't remember. Anyway, so beforehand, he's doing a promo with a straw donkey that he painted as a zebra. And then when it got to the show itself, he played La Cucaracha on the bagpipes. And boy, did they turn up for that one. Just caused a total riot, stabbed that night. Quote, after LA promoter Mike LaBelle found out I was stabbed, he said, well, that's why they pay so much for those front row seats. Look at all the benefits you don't get with WWE for $70,000 these days. You can pay $10 for front row seats and stab your most hated wrestler.
Yeah, ATV, Austin better watch out for ATV Karen at WrestleMania because she hears this episode. It's going to be on. I'd say this, I left one name out. Probably in the past 20 to 30 years, the guy who got the most amount of heat and needed the most protection would be the turncoat, the traitor, Sergeant Slaughter. That's probably the most amount of heat that anyone's gotten since these days or after that. I would say Sarge, during that WrestleMania 7 run after he won the Royal Rumble match against Warrior and won the title, dude, that was hot button topic right there. He said he needed a bulletproof vest, but a bulletproof limo as well. He couldn't go to certain places. That's real heat. And that's when WWF at the time, pretty much after they won in front of Congress and said it's fake. And people still bought that.
That was a year before they did, before they did the Sergeant Slaughter thing. They said it in '89. They even, I think, covered it. Did they? It was in the newspapers.
They covered it on the news. It was a big deal, yeah.
Yeah, they covered it on the news. But I think, CNN covered it. And, WCW, who's owned by Turner as well, couldn't get any play on their own news coverage, news channels. It's like the same with WrestleMania. They do Starrcade. CNN wouldn't mention it at all. WrestleMania would happen, and they'd be reading off the results in the evening bulletin. Because you're mentioning riots, why don't we actually watch the most famous riot of them all? It's not even anywhere near the worst, as far as I can tell, but the Cleveland riot, Ox Baker, 1974. We're going to do it right now, in fact.
The playing field is a wrestling ring. The weapons, steel chairs,
so this is pretty part of Price is Right, Ox Baker.
Yeah. Have you seen this, Stevie?
No.
I like the funky music.
He gave him a hard punch and he held them up, and he gave him another hard punch.
Keep in mind at this point, I think Ox Baker been credited with 2 separate killings. One of the Torres brothers and Ray Gunkel as well, a couple of years earlier. And that's Ernie Ladd down there at the bottom. And I think Ox, the story goes, Ox was saying, man, they're really, really going a bit crazy. And Ernie's just going, just one more, just 2 more, a little more heat. And then I think he says famously, the natives are getting restless.
This camera angle almost makes it look like a 6-sided ring, doesn't it? The way it's over the turnbuckle.
Who thought of putting riots to the Love Boat theme? You can only hear it through one ear as well. It's really annoying.
Oh, so we're gonna get a lot of comments unless Chris fixes it. My right ear really enjoyed this.
Yeah, we can do that. See the lights go up.
When I lived in Connecticut, I got to see Ox Baker a few times, and it's pretty much, you figure out it's just a turned-up version of him. No, this is a turned-down version of Ox in real life. Ox was very loud, boisterous, and he loved telling stories.
Did he ever sing for you?
Did he what? Sing
Did he ever
for me?
sing? Yeah, apparently he's a great singing voice.
I didn't hear him sing. He talked about cooking, though, and that I saw that in 350 Days, the documentary on Prime. He was very proud of his ground beef. That sounds really bad. Sorry.
Dude, have you just noticed there's just some guy there with a chair just standing completely still?
Yeah. It's like The Simpsons. I want to see what that guy's going to do, right?
Yeah, but the manager guy in the white suit looks more like the Yakuza guy. Oh, see, yeah, the manager guy tried to bum rush the guy with the chair there. And then he's just stood in the corner.
Thank you for zooming in, person from the past.
It's almost like ECW with the chair throw.
Yeah, except nobody's telling the fans to throw the chairs and fun thing. Come on, throw it in. Who's that running? Is that Korea? Hey, get him out of here. Hey, you got a chair and you got a chair. I got to run. It does look a little like Korea, doesn't it?
I like to call this the fans
I
battle
don't know
royal.
why that guy's there. But like,
Is
it's
that
not
like one of the Joe Pedicino type of recap shows type thing? That's the presentation I just saw.
Yeah, it's like a VHS kind of thing. It looks like.
I like to call this the fan battle royal.
Who are you to doubt Al Dandy?
What? He's a jam up guy.
Right.
Still no word from Brett.
Hey, I could put in a word. You never know. We might get something back from him. Right then, do you want to talk about the ribs? And because I mentioned it before, the whole bagpipe thing, was that something we should move on and we'll just go straight to pipe fit?
I think in general you talk about BS ribs in the show notes, but the happy mistake of the introduction is what gave him the name, and also, like you said, the bagpipe rib by Freddie Blassie set in motion the Roddy Piper we know and we're talking about in 2025. So I think we need to talk about it because in my estimation, it's an origin story of his hero and villain arc, if you think about it.
So the story goes, as I scratch my eye feverishly, is Roddy Piper. It was his first big shot. He's doing the whole thing, feuding with Chavo Guerrero. He's had success in Portland, had success in the NWA, the LaBelle territory. Goes to the WWF. Here's the thing. I was doing research on the Rockers when they went to the WWF in 87, I think, originally, for like a week or two before they got fired. And they said immediately they came in with a reputation. Two reputations. One, they were really good, and two, they were really hard partiers. And the locker room already hated them. And I sort of get the same feeling that it was the same with Roddy. It's like he came in with a reputation. He was a young guy, 25 or whatever he might have been at that point. And the locker room seemed to hate him before he'd even stepped foot in the ring. And therefore, Freddie Blassie, he's credited or otherwise, quite the ribber back in the day. Steve, which one was Skinner? What's his name? Steve Kern. Steve Kern hated Freddie Blassie. Brutally ribbed him in Japan, apparently. But the thing was to show this kid something. This will show him. They found his bagpipes in the locker room. Freddie Blassie stuffed it full of toilet paper. Piper went out there, making a good impression, or trying to anyway, tried to play the bagpipes, and nothing came out. He was humiliated to the point that he still brought up that story decades later. And it may well have, once again, as you say, an origin story, a villain story, as you might say, really, really, I guess, gave him a sense of total injustice and that he'd never let something like that happen to him again. I mean, it ultimately could have been the making of him. But there's certain ribs out there that are harmless and funny, past the time, can be sort of near the knuckle, but it depends on if you take it well or not. There's some that are really destructive to sort of break your spirit. And then there are the ones like that almost seem like you're trying to ruin their career. And that sort of falls under maybe the most serious.
Yeah, there's a deep psychological problem with professional wrestlers. I think people know that as it stands right now. We're all crazy, but we're all super insecure. And it's how you deal with that. Either you deal with it by trying to raise your own game up and be the best you can be and do a true competitive type thing to be the most over, or, and they do it today, by the way, I'll give an example. So basically, Piper comes in with a reputation. You know why? He had a reputation for getting over, a reputation for getting heat, a reputation for drawing money. And what was he saw as, especially somebody that might be on the second half of their career or even further down the line? A threat. A threat. Wrestling and wrestlers or the infrastructure or the status quo do not like to be threatened. So rather than getting better themselves, what do? Try to destroy somebody else and keep the status quo, keep the business the way it is. I'm sure on promoters level, when Vince was trying to make it a nationwide into a global brand, the territories were looking to not get better and beat Vince, but destroy Vince. How many death threats did you want to talk about? Death threats, Hogan and Vince, every territory they went into, right? Mostly Hogan.
Hey, they tried to.
Race story.
What was it? The NWA convention in like 84 or 85 or something like that. They actually seriously talked about having him killed.
Yes. So That's what it's all based on. This is a minor version of something like that. But what it's trying to do, this type of quote rib or prank or practical joke, is trying to destroy a career. And also, this is the actionable version of Vince standing at the curtain or looking at the monitor next to somebody like Triple H. And he's like, wow, this guy seems pretty good. What do you think? And Hunter doesn't say no, but he doesn't say yes, and plants that seed of doubt into Vince. This here makes Piper look like, I thought you could play the bagpipes. I thought you were coming. We were expecting all this, and therefore 2 or 3 strikes against you instantly. You're out the door. We don't have competition, and we can keep everything status quo. I'm not saying Freddie Blassie wasn't like, man, the stuff he did was insane, and he should have that stand on its own as a worker and a manager. But that's not what feeds into the wrestling business. And also, you don't know if people in the locker room were trying to juice up Freddie. Can you believe that? You know what I mean? Trying to egg him on to do it. It's a sick business. But that's where Piper, that chip on his shoulder, and sorry to close the point off, that chip on his shoulder from that night on, I guarantee you, it's my belief, it brought out a part of Roddy Piper we would have never gotten to see if that didn't happen at the Garden that night.
There's so many different examples, because quite famously, The Rock, when he came into the WWF and Shawn and Triple H had the knives out for him immediately, like absolutely immediately, tried to undermine him at every time.
At least they can spot talent.
Yeah, exactly. but yeah, there you go. I mean, it's sort of a compliment in its own weird way. I mean,
well,
someone else.
The other one I never liked, and it happened to Terry Taylor a lot, is when you have an expensive suit or you're trying to put your best foot forward, or you already know where I'm going with this, and they start cutting like the sleeve off, one of the legs off your like $1,000 suit back then, which is a lot of money. To me, that's just counterproductive to just be like, that's destructive, and that's trying to affect somebody's career and being able to make money. Trust me, most wrestlers are going to self-destruct on their own. Just let it happen. Do a lie hop. Let it happen on purpose. You don't have to help it along. So, but I never liked those kinds of things. Of course, we got the ultimate pooping in the bag or the sandwich thing and all that stuff that are urban legend too.
Well, depending on who you ask, urban legend or stone cold fact, I guess. But the one that always got me, and it apparently happened a lot, was the old halcyon in the drink thing. As a personal story, I remember someone, I think, tried to do that to me once with MDMA, and I was like, I will kill you if you ever mess with my food or drink. Like that's one of those things where I was so, that's my line in the sand. Outback Jack, I actually wrote his name down. You know, they kept gimmicking his drink and basically cost him his career, really, just the relentless ribs as well. And there were so many accusations from the Bulldogs or the Rockers to people on down. Duke the Dumpster Drozy apparently was quite famous for it. I don't mind saying that now because he's currently under investigation for some serious underage material at the moment. So I'm happy to throw his name under the bus. But that's the one I always found the most distasteful. What about you?
Yeah, the drug I remember was GHB. So they're very roofies, GHB, whatever it might be. There's a lot of that. That to me, that's beyond the pale. That's way beyond the pale. Even, not really a rib, but some kind of initiation with you have to drink with Undertaker, and people would sometimes get alcohol poisoning. It would give you so much. I was never into that. And I never wanted to be near that. And they could say I have heat or I'm not one of the boys. I am not one of the boys when it comes to stupid stuff like that. And wrestlers don't have a good sense of reality sometimes that, like you said, it's a criminal offense. And what if you kill somebody?
You don't know their health history, and you can overdose somebody, or they can be allergic to something, or they can have just a propensity to not be able to tolerate something that you're putting in their drink. And I hate that. I really hate that.
Yeah, but who do they think cutting a good promo? Who do they think they are? Do you see the reasoning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did that sort of go out of the business for the most part? Because you never hear about that anymore. Is it the 90s, early 2000s, around that area?
I couldn't quite tell you because I stay away from all of it. I know we had a segment where he talked about how do you know when someone's messed up in the ring and how do you know this or that. And I'm not very educated on that. I only know if somebody's stumbling, falling all over themselves. Yeah, obviously. But I've never and I give Raven credit because Raven would keep me away from those circles of those types of partying type things. Not that I ever wanted to be near it, but he would give me an out because there'd be certain people to be like, Stevie's not one of us. He needs to come do this. And he was like, no, kid doesn't do that. So I give Raven credit when he would kind of defend me with those kinds of things because he knows I didn't want to be a part of that. So I never witnessed anything like that. It's a crime to do that. It's not funny. And you're talking about hotel bars or other bars, clubs. I'd avoid that, man. Plus it costs money to go to those places. So at the core, I didn't want to be a part of the anyway.
It's the guy who I suspected to spike my drink turned out to be a convicted rapist. Wouldn't you know?
Huh?
Yeah. Turned out this person we hung out with for years had done 9 months when he was 18. Which seems quite low, actually, but I don't know. But anyway, he continued doing it for years, we found out.
But what is it? I mean, I don't even know where to start with a question. How in the world did you catch him, and what was the result of that? I mean, I'm sure you wanted to beat him up at least for doing it.
I just told him off, and he went, no, I didn't do it, but I sort of think he did. I threw the drink away and then just got a new one. I couldn't prove it. That's the thing. But did you cut a good promo before that? Did you just do something to deserve it? I don't know. I was very young at the time. Okay. I was like 20. He was like, he probably like 7, 8, 9 years older than me kind of thing. So it's not quite that, but it's one of those things I really, really hate that. And I was so paranoid. Like, 'cause I used to go to clubs all the time. I never enjoyed it. Never enjoyed going to clubs, but you just do it as a kid because everyone else was. And I think like by the time I was 20, I'd said, I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. Unless it was like a nice club.
I brought this up before, but we're talking about ribs. We're talking about things that are kind of super desensitized within the wrestling business. I just want to get, if anybody's like, well, I don't quite follow, I don't get it, I don't get the impact of what you're saying. WWE, at one point, I don't know if we can ever find the footage, but I did see it, and it does exist. Please tell me it doesn't. It's not a Mandela effect. They made a cartoon version of the plane ride from hell on one of the story things or whatever, when they were doing those cartoon reenactments on the network.
I'm just Googling it now. Only Dark Side of the Ring's coming up. I'm not sure. They may have done. WWE, was it Story Time? Right, so it was a cartoon they had that was... oh my God, they did.
They did. Okay, I didn't imagine that.
Yeah, I've got the image of Ric Flair in a pink shirt pointing. I'm not sure, maybe that's not from the same episode. But I'm just looking. The company has allowed some of the wrestlers involved to tell these stories with a hint of being a rapscallion, but they also know the rest of the world doesn't necessarily perceive the PRFH as being a boys will be boys type of story. That's why the company ultimately pulled the first episode of Storytime off of Peacock. The stories had to deal with the plane riding, yes, particularly involving Ric Flair and the flight attendant. So yes, they did. But it was
originally on WWE Network when it was a standalone subscription.
It was, yeah.
Aha. I don't mean that. I don't mean that in a celebratory way. I'm just like, did I remember you sometimes now in 2025, did I remember that they did that? And now it's a big, now it's like walking all that back, but they made it into a joke, into an actual cartoon along the vein of the 80s WWF wrestling cartoon. That's what it looked like.
Dude, right. Yesterday, I forgot that Seth Rollins was kicked out of the Vision. It was a segment 3 weeks ago, and I've forgotten about it. I'll blow your mind with what I forgot. It's unbelievable. Let me follow with the whole
that's not
thing.
your fault. That just sucks.
Yeah, totally. Now, do you know of anyone where just constant ribbing broke them and got and they left the business because of it?
Yeah, Palmer Cannon. Overseas. And overseas was you're trapped, you got nowhere to go, you have no time to yourself, you're on the bus, you're essentially trapped, and then they got to figure out who's going to be the one. And that's it. It was Palmer Cannon, and he went in. Nathan Jones, it broke him. I don't think he was ribbed, but I don't think he was encouraged any either. And he just said, I'm done. Whether it's the road or whatever, the environment. But Palmer Cannon, that guy, yeah, definitely. You know, they got him to the point. I think when they go, oh, he couldn't take it. He went back home and he just didn't want to take it. He's like, I remember Nova telling me, like, he was just like, I'm done. This is stupid. You know what I mean? Like, we're all adults here. What is this about? Once you get to WWE, haven't you paid your dues and now you're on the main stage, and aren't you afforded some kind of encouragement and grace? No, they start testing you. Dude, they were testing Big Show at one point after he was with the company for like 10 years.
Did you ever get involved with that whole, they only rib you because they like you?
There's a difference between ribbing and busting your chops. Busting your chops, I understand, joking, saying whatever, going back and forth in a friendly way. Now, the thing is, here's the trap. If you're busting chops at somebody who's a top guy and he's on you and you say something back to him, 11 times out of 10, you're buried because they don't like to take it. None of them. Trust me. Trust me on that. But the whole thing, now here's the thing. The comparison. If they kind of mess with you and bust your chops, kid with you, and then usually if they like you, somebody will pull you aside and say, hey, we're just messing with you. Just go with it. And the real reason is there's a term. Heat always passes. If you don't sell for it and you just kind of go along with it, they find another victim. There's always a new person or somebody that messed up or said hello the wrong way, God forbid. But when they don't talk to you and you get the silent treatment, I've been on both ends of that, by the way. Now you don't have heat. Now you're a pariah. And that's kind of worse. Now, that's not the rib, the ribs of cutting your pants, padlocking your bag up on the pipes, stuff like that. It's kind of a term of you're not welcome here, at least not at the moment, and they want you to quit. Oh, you know what the other one was? That really, to the point where I don't know if he quit, but he should have, Don Callis as the Jackal. He couldn't even dress in the locker room. He had to dress in his car, and he was just an introvert. That's what I understand him to be back then. Oh, no, you have to kiss the ring every day.
What was it with Palmer Cannon? Because you were there at the time, I guess. Because he was barely there. He was almost like the original random GM of SmackDown. He was a
co-GM with Teddy Long, wasn't he?
Yeah, something like that.
I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you what got him heat or anything. All I can say is maybe it's just his personality. There were certain people like Matt Stryker. I used to kill with Matt Stryker and say, you're Andy Dufresne from Shawshank Redemption, because they would have the daggers out. They would be staring daggers through him, and he'd be walking like Andy Dufresne through the prison yard, just sauntering and kind of gliding across the locker room. And I was like, I admired it in a way because he gets it, and he was a school teacher, and he's like, he said to me one time, my students act more mature than these guys. And I believed him, and I knew probably a fact.
Okay, then we're going to do a couple more bits of Piper things, topics, and how can we not talk about Roddy Piper without the genius that is Piper's Pit? And I forgot to put one question down straight away, but I'm going to ask it you now. What was the difference for you as a fan watching between Piper's Pit and then Jesse Ventura had the Body Shop, and then Missy Hyatt had like Hyatt's Missy's Manor, which never aired, and the Flower Shop, and various different versions of same. None of them with Piper's Pit, and obviously you don't have Roddy Piper there as well. But why could no one replicate the success of Roddy with their little talk show segments?
Well, I mean, in theory, the easy theory could be that he was the first to do it. So he's always going to be the person to compare it to.
He wasn't. Do you know who had the little talk show segment before Roddy Piper? Buddy Rogers.
Buddy Rogers.
Yeah,
but
he had like the...
Buddy Rogers was more of a Nick Bonquaco, very conversational. Nothing wrong with that, but not an antagonist. I can't say a Philly accent. He didn't antagonize people. He did in a way. He was a heel. But the Piper thing just had so much more... You know what? Here it is. We just talked about it earlier. The chip on his shoulder. Buddy Rogers didn't have that chip on his shoulder. Adrian Adonis had a little bit, but he didn't. Jesse Ventura always put himself over before trying to get the other talent over through putting them first. Piper always put the guest first. Even if he was getting himself over in the meantime, what did he, even the Korea one? Hey, what are you, smart ass? He was basically shredding Korea's career as the weak link of any team has been in. It was just, oh, you're a 5-time tag champ? That means you lost him 5 times. And hey, the way I looked at it, you were the same you had different partners, but you were there the whole 5 times and you lost them. That's a truth as well, where I could say, wow, he has a point. But that chip on Roddy's shoulder, I think, really separated him from, I mean, look at even Jericho with the highlight reel. Look at, Christian had one, Carlitos, Cabana. There's been talk shows that have been done, but when they're done in the ring, they suck. I love Piper. It was so much, it was off. It was back away from everything on its own set. Hey, dare I say it, even Vince doing Tuesday Night Titans was a great talk show in that vein that separated from Piper's Pit. But you know what? Once again, here, if I can't put it in the words, or if these reasons don't resonate with people, that's why Roddy was a star. You can't quite put your finger on it. It's just not Piper's Pit.
I've got loads here. There's another one. Jerry Lawler, The King's Court, but there was the barbershop, the Heartbreak Hotel with Shawn Michaels, the funeral parlor, which at least really stood out for 2 reasons. One, it had the great visuals and the dark light and everything. And the second was that they played the music all the way through. But they also did that for the Brother Love one as well. There was the Snake Pit. And as you said, Ms. TV, The Peep Show, the highlight reel. There's been loads over the years, but they all seem to weirdly...
The KO show, even Kevin Owens.
Yeah, the KO
one.
show. But they all seem to owe themselves to the Piper's Pit show, or the segment, but not Buddy Rogers, which was Victory Corner, I think. And it was called Victory Corner because the WWF had their own magazine called Victory, I guess, before they had WWF magazine. And the Victory magazine would actually cover other promotions as well, even though it's produced by the WWF or co-owned or whatever it might have been at the time.
Didn't Arnold Skolin have his own little interview segment too at one point?
Not. Did he?
I don't know. It's comment below. I just, once again, maybe a Mandela effect, but I have this sneaking suspicion.
I've got a deep cut for you. After Jesse Ventura, I think, was fired from the WWF because he took the Predator job, the film Predator. Who replaced him?
That didn't sell right.
We're looking for a Predator. Find that in the newspaper. Who replaced him?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't remember.
Body Shop. Don Morocco.
Oh, that's awesome. How did Don like doing that?
He's terrible. And I love Don as well. But the thing is, Don was like a great... When Don did his promos, he was either great or he just completely stumbled over his words when he had something to remember, which is why Fuji Vice and stuff was so funny.
Well, he also had Billy Graham as his manager when he was Don the Rock Morocco, the original Rock. And he was somebody that benefited from a manager because you just look at him. Of course, him and Billy Graham were the same muscularity and size at the time. So who's the manager? But
Fuji was a great manager. Like beyond the Wiz, beyond Captain Lou, Fuji was so the best manager for Don. Because if nothing else, they knew each other before wrestling.
Oh yeah, he told some stories you told me off air about Fuji too. Talking about
this wasn't
ribs.
This wasn't just like the food, the pet cooking stuff. He was just a reprobate Fuji anyway. He was just a reprobate through his life.
Yeah, but he gave us Fuji Vice, so that's all. I watch that from time to time. I never skip over it if it pops up in my feed on YouTube.
So, an interesting early episode of Piper's Pit, I want to make mention of this, and this isn't Tony Gurria's one, is with Dr. D. Dave Schultz. This is early 84. So the expansion's already well underway at this point. They've already taken a load of people from the AWA. Bobby Heenan will be there soon, Mean Gene, Hulk Hogan, of course. But Dr. D says, after a very long introduction by Roddy Piper, because obviously he's got to get himself over as well, is that Dr. D said, I've come from the AWA and nobody wanted to wrestle me over in the AWA. So now I've come to the WWF where they're saying the toughest wrestle right here, and still nobody wants... I'm struggling to find matches with people who want to take me on. This must be one of the last instances they ever mentioned another wrestling promotion by name until like WCW in like the mid-late 90s.
Do you think the David Schultz Piper's Pit caused Vince to say, don't ever mention anybody else again? Do you think he just kind of slipped it in, and then I don't remember anybody after that talking about that? So that's pretty interesting right there. I had a thought about Piper's Pit with that David Schultz, which is interesting. I have to watch that. You want to talk about somebody that put wrestling in the mainstream again without meaning to. That's an urban legend that I would love to explore, that he says Vince told him to do it, or told him to take care of this guy or do whatever, and he gave him those slaps.
I've got his book.
I'm not sure.
I've got his book right there. I can double check with you, but I think he says that Vince put him up to it. I
know in shoot interviews, that's exactly what he said. I don't know the exact wording of it, but it was directed by Vince to protect the business.
That is going to be a future episode, but I'm going to give you a fun fact. The same day he slapped John Stossel, do you know who he wrestled in MSG?
Hogan?
Antonio Inoki, who was very rarely in the WWF at that point. Very rare. Yeah, he wrestled Inoki just randomly.
The guy who people lined up to get slapped by him in Japan. Remember that video?
If you've seen that, it was like an MMA show, and the winner turns up to get like a few cuffs around there. Have you seen the one where Inoki is just sat on a sofa in like a waiting room somewhere? He's really old at this point. And then as a prank, someone dressed as Spider-Man bursts through the ceiling.
No, I never saw that.
He catches a few slaps as well.
Speaking of the slap, it's called the slap. It's Australian, not British. The one I talked about where the guy was slapping everybody that was in the yard and double slapping the cops.
You sent that me, yeah. I've seen that before as well.
Yeah, Patreon let me know what it was, and that's how I found it. So thank you very much, Patreon.
Of all the Piper's Pits, which, apart from Tony Gurria, you smart ass, what were the ones that stood out for you, apart from Snooker as well, which you mentioned earlier?
Frankie Williams. That was great because Piper with the Gurria one and with all the baby faces, he didn't just not let them talk at all. He let them get in a few words to get the kind of point across that he was cutting them off and they were making a really good point. That's a very, very fine line to build that up. If you notice with a Gurria, he started talking, you could hear he was about to have, you knew what he was kind of going to say, and then he didn't. Frankie Williams was... You know, you haven't won a lot of matches. I probably would have been in the Frankie Williams spot back then if I was wrestling. But also the one with Andre, where Andre and Hogan, and you're bleeding, and he pulled the chain off. Piper was every bit of that moment between Hogan and Andre and Bobby Heenan egging everything on. That was probably what I would say is the best Piper's Pit he ever did outside of the Snooker one. Then there's the one when he would be a babyface Piper with heels and bury the heels in the same exact way he did when he was a heel. And he was like, you both stink. And he'd walk away. I remember that.
I think it's one of the most clever heel turns ever, the Andre the Giant thing, because he was with the Machines and it was obvious it was him. It's like Mr. America, like the Yellow Dog, like all the other one, the Midnight Rider. It's the exact same thing. Wrestler gets suspended or loser leaves town, and then they turn back up in a mask, and it's obviously them. And Andre the Giant, no one else could be Andre the Giant. He was the Machines all through 86 for ages. Then I think he takes some time off for surgery, or who knows, even doing some filming, who knows. And then he comes back, because it is found that he is Andre the Giant under the mask, and then he's suspended permanently. Then he comes back with Bobby Heenan, and Bobby Heenan's the one leading the charge to have him suspended. And I'm not sure it's ever said explicitly, but it's the reason that the suspension was lifted, because now he's been convinced by Bobby Heenan to let him manage Andre and go for the WWF title. I always thought that storyline was so clever and so weirdly understated that you had to read between the lines.
Yeah, it was definitely something that you didn't say, well, they missed that detail. You're just looking in awe that this guy who's been a babyface his entire career is now going after Hogan, who they were supposedly like brothers. Oh, here's another one. This is an Easter egg on a comedy level in a way. Remember when Jack Tunney came out with the belt on Piper's Pit, and Jack Tunney seemed a little off in a way? And he's like, oh, look at the belt. Look at this belt. And Piper's like making fun of him, and they're looking at the belt. Do you remember the brand new belt for Andre?
No.
There was a thing with Tunney and a belt on Piper's Pit, and he's laughing like you think he might have, like, you know, had a couple before that, allegedly. And he comes out, and they're just like laughing. If you look at Piper's Pit, Jack Tunney, it should be on there. And then once again, if I'm remembering it incorrectly, I'm sorry.
There were so many Piper's Pits. I mean, just in that playlist from 84 to 87, there's like 120 odd that they had. They just churned them out like one after another, like on every weekly show for ages. As far as the sets go, did you prefer was it like more of a yellowy castle kind of thing at one point, or, you know, just like the simple 3 bits of board up with the you know, the crest of Piper's Pit, you know, the initially debuted with, or did you prefer like the later versions with like Morton Downey Jr., where it was in the ring and it was a tartan ring canvas? What was your favorite set?
No. What say you? No, I hated anything in the ring with a talk show is just a disconnect in front of the crowd. To that point, my favorite was not the very first one, although it just killed the whole suspension of disbelief during the coconut snooker thing. But when they had a legitimate kind of like a carpeted stage, and they had it like really kind of like blocked off to where you couldn't see anything.
Was it like the castle? Did you like the castle set?
Yes, it was the coat of arms, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sending you, I have Jack Tunney. Jack Tunney introduces WWE title or WWF title on Piper's Pit.
What do you think of the Morton Downey Jr. one? Because I remember watching that. Was it WrestleMania 6, 1990? I think it was.
No, I think it's WrestleMania 5, and Trump Plaza was one of those. Yeah.
I remember that segment going on until WrestleMania 12. I remember that just dragging for 8. It's great for the payoff at the end with the fire extinguisher, but I just remember that going for eons. That went on for that one.
Yeah, Morton Downey Jr., I didn't think he was going to end up selling or doing a job for Piper in any form or fashion. Did you sense that this could go on forever? And Morton Downey Jr., we might have a Richard Belzer situation on our hands. I felt uncomfortable watching that, but maybe that's what it was supposed to be, because the fire extinguisher, he did good business selling the fire extinguisher. So did Morton Downey Jr. understand how to be a heel, even more of a heel than Piper, and doing the blowing the smoke in the face and doing all that? Was the uncomfortable nature of the segment designed that way? I don't know. Was it felt that way in retrospect, but watching, I'm like, good Lord, just beat him up already.
Dude, wasn't Morton Downey Jr. just like a total regional hit? Like, he wasn't...
He was the Jerry Springer before Jerry Springer.
Yeah, but I thought he was only like in the tri-state area. It didn't go any further than that, pretty much.
He might not. I mean, in Philly, we always got him, so it might have been just New York stations, local Philly, Jersey, around that way. I don't know if he was ever nationwide, but he was definitely somebody that would make appearances on talk shows and other places, so he had to air outside the tri-state area to some extent.
Yeah, maybe he did. I know so little of the guy other than that segment, and I think he had some wrestlers on in maybe 88, like Is Wrestling Fake? And one of those kinds of things. The only other thing I know about him is that one of Bowser's children from the Nintendo Mario franchise is called Morton Cooper Jr. And that's the only reason I know the name. It's a weird reference to that.
That's the only way you should know everything based on video games. By the way, take a drink. Future segments on video games and possible future live streams as well.
Yeah, Steve and I have been talking about a potential gaming live stream. We'd have to figure it. It'd probably be Fight Forever. AEW Fight Forever. Because you were pushing for that forever. Fight forever.
Piper, Morton Downey Jr. seemed like they were going to fight forever too.
The only other one I wanted to bring up was Ivan Putski, because he did eventually grab the microphone and start doing that song. He knows like one song and always sings the same song, and I don't know what it is. I don't think it's the Yellow Rose of Texas or something, but whatever it is. He always
He's
sang
not
it.
quite the singer Ox Baker is.
No,
the people.
no, not quite the pipes. Right, of Piper's Pit. Anything else to say about Piper's Pit? Did you enjoy any of the later iterations in the 2000s? With WrestleMania, Carlito, Steve Austin, all that kind of thing.
The Steve Austin one was good, and the way they kind of went back and forth. But that also had an air of discomfort. It felt like they didn't have a whole lot planned out, the slaps, stuff like that. It worked out. But once again, I'm never a fan of these types of segments in the middle of the ring. If it spills into the ring post, like if there's a pull apart or a fight or something, but inside the ring, it feels like there's so much to set up, the changeover, the logistics, and it just feels like you're playing to the crowd instead of looking right at the person. Now, obviously, they do face off and do stuff like that, but I never liked it. It never has quite, I mean, it might just because I'm a child of the 80s or whatever. It never had quite the feel of it, the substance that the actual set had. For any of those shows, I include the Funeral Parlor, Brother Love, and the Flower Shop, and even the Body Shop when they had that stage away from the ring.
We're going to be talking about the Flower Shop and the whole turn in a future episode in a Roddy Piper Part 2 that we're going to be doing. We're also going to be talking about Roddy Piper and Vince Russo. We're going to be talking about Roddy Piper and Vince McMahon. That's all going to be for a Part 2, but I wanted to end this podcast and...
What?
I said podcast.
What? Austin, what?
What? Right. The reason I said podcast is because there was a podcast war between Roddy Piper and Steve Austin, and you told me you had no idea this happened.
No idea.
Okay, just before, right, and you were just saying there seems to be like a level of being uncomfortable between Roddy Piper and Steve Austin in that segment. Was that like kind of palpable to you when you were watching it? Are they even too similar as characters, maybe?
Yes, that might be it. Two similar characters, two rebels, two people that go against the grain, that don't listen to authority. You would classify both of them in that way, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like two are the same, or the unstoppable force meeting the immovable object kind of thing. And what's this going to play out? It kind of had a weird, like I said, uncomfortable feeling. Maybe more so than even the Morton Downey one in a way. Just weird. But maybe two guys busting each other's chops in the ring. Who knows?
I always felt that, and apparently there may have been more to that. If we go another 10 years into the future, from 2005 to 2015, I, at the time, 2015, listened to podcasts fervently. Podcast One at the time had a lot of shows, including the most important one at the time, or the most listened to, was the Steve Austin Show, or Steve Austin Unleashed, or whatever it was. And then there was also Chris Jericho's one. They had some other ones. At one point, Jerry Lawler was on the Podcast One network that lasted a very short amount of time. Right, so here is the bone of contention. Roddy Piper, on his Piper's Pit podcast, it was about a year in at this point, had Will Sasso on. Impressionist, comedian, all that kind of thing. Mad TV, I guess he's most famous for back in the day. But he wasn't promoted as Will Sasso. He was promoted as, we're having Steve Austin on the podcast. And then Will Sasso, through the entirety of the show, did a Steve Austin impression. They even had Jim Duggan call in, and they didn't tell Jim Duggan either, it was a wind-up. And Will Sasso as Austin, starts giving Jim Duggan grief. And they start going back and forth a bit until he's clued in that's actually not Steve. Because I don't believe Jim Duggan was particularly keen on Steve Austin either. At one point, at least, because they had their own weird interaction in WCW. So, Will Sasso as Steve Austin continues with the character, starts saying certain things that upset Steve Austin, allegedly. Somewhere he was talking about, his career, making fun of Steve Austin's career. So the episode airs, and it's taken down about 6 hours later, according to Roddy Piper. The network took down the episode, and in Piper's words, all of his podcasts, because they were both on Podcast One at the time, or at least suspended from their feed. Now, Piper claimed that Steve Austin took issue with the impersonation and also advertising Steve Austin to be there when it obviously wasn't Steve, and that Steve Austin contacted Podcast One or the network's leadership, and caused the removal/change. And Piper's exact quote was, "After the show aired, the company had not only taken down the podcast, but all of my podcasts, because Steve, you were upset and you went and talked to them." Now, Piper also claimed he was threatened with firing from the entire network, and also said that he wasn't fired, he ended up leaving, but he felt like he was going to be censored. So therefore, what's the point of being here? I can't have fun. We'll move over to, I think at the time it was Westwood One. So he ends up moving all the podcasts, and it's just that quick. And Austin's perspective, and he barely has ever talked about this apart from just briefly at the time. Austin, via his podcast and public comments, said that while he didn't like the episode, the narrative that he got Piper fired couldn't be further from the truth. Quote, Austin said the episode had some business of a personal nature that I didn't care to have floating around there, being downloaded into cyberspace, so I had it removed from rotation. And he further said that Piper's claim that he got him kicked off the network is inaccurate. So, essentially, here's where it becomes even more controversial. So Piper's kicked off the podcast network. I think he may have done one more show after it on Westwood One or wherever it was. And then, very shortly thereafter, he loses his WWE Legends contract. And then a few weeks later, he dies. So.
Oh, wow.
In that sense, it didn't make Austin look good. I mean, it's probably happenstance. That, it's probably, I don't know if like the stress and cause of effect affected Roddy Piper's health in any way. But after the fact, it was just like, damn, that ended up not being a good look for Steve in the end, even though he was probably right.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's something super personal and stuff like that, yeah, I can see him doing that. Once again, here's what I say. I said it with Taker, and I said it with Triple H before, and this goes for Austin as well. Austin does now, he might have said, hey, please take that down. That's beyond, he crossed the line. It's personal. I don't want that out there. I don't want to be downloaded in cyberspace or any of that. But remember, what do people want to do? They want to make Austin happy. They want to make Taker happy. They want to make Triple H happy. They want to make Vince happy. They don't have to demand anything or ask anything. Now, the episode, like you said, he didn't want that one episode out there. Plus, he was advertised. I said, Austin and Piper, almost the same guy in protecting their character, protecting their brand, protecting their business. But Podcast One or somebody in line to have the power to take down the entire podcast, let's just take it off and make Steve happy. Do you see what I mean? Just like the clout thing, that somebody's going to volunteer to do that or do that and say, hey, Steve, we did this for you because he shouldn't have done that. They might not even have said that much of it. Now, the Legends contract, that just falls to speculation and interpretation. It could be a coincidence. I don't think the ultimate passing of Piper had to do with those instances. Like he had said in the interview, he didn't think he was going to live to be 65 because of all the past stuff and his health concerns. Not to mention he went through, being ill, getting surgeries, things like that while he was wrestling, right? He'd come back from a surgery to wrestle in WCW.
Now, of course, Billy Jack Haynes blames Steve Austin, but he also says that Chris Benoit's son was actually Vince McMahon's son. And also he blew his wife's head off with a shotgun.
Oh, there's that. I mean, those are independent, by the way. We're not talking about with Piper. Yeah, I don't know about that. What did Steve ever say anything or?
No, apart from after Piper died and sort of paid tribute to his legacy, I guess he's never mentioned Roddy Piper publicly ever, which always struck me a little weird. I'm always wondering if there was some sort of professional animosity between the two.
I'm really not sure, but if he did not pay tribute after he passed away, then you would say there's absolutely a rift between these two guys. But he did that, so I don't know. That's weird. I've never heard of that. I never heard that whole thing. I know Will Sasso imitates Austin. He does a great Justin Ventura. As a matter of fact, he and Killer Cross did one together on a show. Who else did he did the thing with Bret Hart. Will Sasso's been involved in the wrestling business for decades, off and on. He actually, wait a minute, was this before or after? Remember Will Sasso came out as the fake Austin, I think, on SmackDown?
Oh, this is
And
way
Austin's-
before that. This was way after that. The whole fake Austin thing was like 2001 or something, or 2002.
Yes, it was. So this was way after.
Steve Austin said about Roddy Piper's passing, "I am shocked and saddened to hear of Roddy Piper's passing. He was one of a kind and one of the all-time greats." And that was it. So I guess it was a Twitter thing.
No, and for all we know, they squashed it after that they did talk on the phone and squashed it because Steve's not a phony either in a lot of ways. He's not going to give the political answer if he doesn't like somebody to that degree. My guess would be, like you said, he hasn't mentioned them since, but he mentioned them when it counted after he passed away. But if he really didn't like somebody, he would just never, even mentioning their name would be putting them over in a way to most wrestlers.
I'm kind of wondering, did Roddy not kind of see this coming slightly? Because Steve Austin, for Podcast One, at least in the wrestling realm, and probably all right, like him and Adam Carolla and a few others, they were the golden geese of the podcasting network at that time. They were doing massive numbers. So kind of doing stuff that made him look bad, I can't really see any other way that could have ended, and that Roddy didn't quite foresee it. Or maybe he didn't, just didn't care.
No, it could also be just something in good fun. And then again, let's not forget Will Sasso. There's no script there between him and Piper. They're probably just going off back and forth. And Will Sasso might have said, well, this will be like edgy and funny if I bring this up, if it was brought up, the personal detail. But it sounds like Austin saying what he said, there was that personal nature that was brought up that offended him and he wanted the episode taken down.
We're going to save the rest of the Roddy Piper stuff for a part 2. So once again, we're going to have the Vince Russo stuff. We're going to have probably WrestleMania 8, Adrian Adonis, Vince McMahon. We're going to save all that for a part 2, so I hope you join us for
Real
that.
sports, if it's not part 2, it'll be part 3. The real sports interviews, stuff like that. That got him fired.
We covered that in a previous show.
We did. It was just
throw up a
clip
drink.
off of that.
We've already done it for once. So to take a drink. I think we've actually already mentioned that, but I mean, it might be worth mentioning it again, I think, definitely. We're going to talk about a bit of news now. Rusev and Dave Meltzer. And Dave Meltzer kind of pointed out that Aleister Black and Rusev, or Miro at the time, had already lost more matches in their current WWE runs as they had in their entire multi-year AEW runs. Rusev in 6 months, it's not even 6 months, I think he started back in May, so it was even less, has wrestled almost as many matches than he did in AEW over 5 years, and has lost more matches already than he did in AEW. Now, Dave Meltzer continually has talked about how Rusev is not over in WWE on his podcasts. He's like the only person he mentions this about, and it seems to be like constant. He's always taking aim at Rusev. It's like he's got a personal beef with him.
Well, according to Dave, WWE's not even over as WWE. So there's an inception. WWE's just not over compared to AEW. Like nobody, just because you're in WWE, you're not over.
Oh, God, he was making a case that WWE was definitely not the best show out there. But the thing is, like, you can make the case for it, but who would you make the case had the best show of 2025? I think it's kind of been a down year for wrestling. All around.
Creatively, there was a honeymoon period, much like the Triple H story we said. 2025 seems to be the realization that this is a business and you're technically being turned upside down and shaken for. You're the money mark to TKO. That's the way it looks like.
So Meltzer, a couple of weeks ago, was also accused of doing a number of hit pieces on WWE that sort of just didn't seem in good faith as well. But also, I mean, as we all know, Meltzer toes the AEW line no matter what the subject. And past couple of days, he was arguing with the Young Bucks. Arguing on social media how the Young Bucks had absolutely no part to play in the collapse of the CM Punk's EVP's Tony Khan situation that boiled up. It's like, well, they obviously had a part to play. But, you know, because the Young Bucks are Meltzer's personal friends, therefore they're absolutely blameless. Now, Rusev comments regarding his supposed refusal to lose matches. This is from Rusev himself. In the past 5 years while working for AEW, I've had 36 matches. Back in the day, during his first WWE run, I had 30 matches in 30 days, Rusev said. The dead time sticks out the most. We only have this body and age for so long. We can't do this job forever, so we must take advantage of it while we're young. I sat on the sidelines for so long and able to do what I love, which is performing for people in professional wrestling. Now, bear in mind what I just said there. Dave Meltzer but said this recently. It felt like Rusev spent most of the time either injured or not used because of creative differences largely based on not wanting to lose. He had 36 matches in 5 years, and in hindsight, Tony Khan probably paid him more for less than anyone in the history of AEW. Since returning to WWE, he's had 25 matches. Okay, Meltzer's obviously trying to paint Rusev out as a giant waste of money and that he was very, very uncooperative with Tony Khan and refused to lose matches. What I read out of that, Stevie, and I don't know if you agree with me or not, is that Tony Khan is just an ineffectual boss who can't tell his wrestlers when to lose. He's paying them. I'm seeing this as a criticism of Tony Khan here, not Rusev, if that's true.
Isn't that the funny thing that he's trying to actually bury somebody and put Tony Khan in a favorable light, but it looks like, dude, you're just a bad boss that gets walked all over, and you should be able to say, you're getting paid to put somebody over or wrestle. You need to listen to me or you're getting sent home. Now, this here, dude, he's got to think of a better way, a more subtle way to not say he's working for AEW and getting paid by AEW, because it's beyond the pale at this point, isn't it? I think a lot of people in media, in and out of wrestling, prove every day that they're getting paid to some extent. And the ones that aren't getting paid are the ones you're calling bitter and irrelevant in some ways too, because we're telling the truth. This here, people pay this guy how much? $15 a month for this information?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are you getting your money's worth? How many times has Dave Meltzer gotten his facts straight? More importantly, we talked about it on Patreon. How many times has Dave Meltzer admitted he was wrong? We're only going to compare it to what we do here. How many times have we opened up episodes with corrections on things we got wrong the week before? And how much has it bothered me all week long where I want to do a solo video saying I got this wrong? The wrestling business needs more of that. That's why it's in trouble, because nobody can realize, oh, I got it wrong. I need to correct this. Everybody's got to be the hero in their own story. And Tony Khan is a case of that. He sounds like he's just Tony Khan's puppet. Tony Khan has the hand up the butt and Meltzer talks. That's the only way I can put it. Dave, you're making a ton of money. You've made a ton of money in this business. Al Snow says it best. You're the best worker in the history of the business, but you're being exposed for what you are the more time that goes by. Be more objective, or just say, dude, you just do an AEW only show. There's plenty of shows out there that speak of WWE in a positive light. And this is the funny thing about our show. When we talk honestly about WWE and Triple H, we're getting paid by AEW. When we do stories like this, we're getting paid by WWE. Which one is it? Because give us the money. Come on, man. Where's the money? I don't see it in my account.
Hey, damn, we'd be so much nicer if someone actually paid us. We really would. I just remembered this, right? Because we'll get back to the Rusev thing in a second. Dave Meltzer recently, so I believe, posted something to the effect of, within his own newsletter, I guess, do you watch AEW? And if you do you watch it every single week? Do you just watch Dynamite? Do you just watch Collision? Or do you dip in and out kind of thing? Or just a pay-per-view?
So he's doing a survey on behalf of Tony Khan. That's basically just my early guess.
And guess what percentage of people who subscribed and actually bothered to reply to the Wrestling Observer newsletter that said that they watched at least some AEW, if not weekly, then at least semi-weekly? Have a guess what percentage?
25.
98% of people. This is why I'm saying
I thought you were going to do a Russo swerve there. I'm sorry.
No, 98%, which it just tells me is that all he's done is succeeded in creating his own subscription echo chamber.
So he has an AEW newsletter. Is that what you're saying?
That's basically what it is now. And now, obviously, some people who saw that didn't write in because they didn't watch, I guess, or didn't keep up with AEW. Or maybe they just watch as much WWE, but I suspect not. But, how can you just have, an almost 100% AEW fan base subscribing to you, and then you have Tony Khan calling you mid-podcast recording to just chat about the booking, I imagine, or whatever else you might be, and then claim you're unbiased, when quite clearly with the Rusev story, you are very clearly only getting it from one side. I will guarantee you he never called up Miro and said, listen, I've got this story here. It's coming straight from the horse's mouth of Tony Khan. What do you refute as far as, what he's claimed? That's what a journalist would do. What he's doing is just, it might as well be him and Tony Khan's mouth moving at the exact same time. Same with the CM Punk thing.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. You know what? I'll look at it a different way. We all want our little niche, or hopefully a big niche when we're doing this kind of stuff. We want our core audience. We want to appeal to them and hopefully convert sales, get sponsors, get AdSense, get Patreon, buy merchandise. He has his base. Why not embrace it? Why make pretend that you don't have an AEW leaning? It's obvious it's 100% AEW, 0% WWE, right? Or anybody that talks against AEW or says anything about the favorites that he likes, you have no clue what you're talking about. You don't know anything. And there's people out there that believe him. Lean into it. Make the money. Cash Tony Khan's check. Cash the check. I'm a worker. I'm talent. Turn that money mark over and shake it for all it's worth. Do it. If you have, he probably did it already. But this is the thing. Years down the line, he or other people have just said, no, I'm just helping out. It's just a friend. Years down the line, you're doing this much to where he's calling, asking you about the booking as a friend. I'm paraphrasing it, or I'm assuming he's not saying it's a business partner relationship. Money has switched hands. Hasn't he said it's nothing like that, or he just hasn't said it through omission?
He's said many times he's never been paid by Tony Khan, kind of thing. And I think one of the arguments hey, I spoke to Vince McMahon before. And it's like, yeah, I'm sure you did a couple of, brief stints.
On a Donahue show, right?
No, apparently him and Vince used to actually, two separate stints or whatever. He and Vince used to talk about the business and whatever else. It was usually coinciding with major downturns in the WWF, where I guess Vince felt like he needed another perspective or whatever, I suppose. But also, the argument doesn't wash, because he said, well, I've got friends in WWE, but it's like, yeah, but here's the thing, some of your best friends in the business are not only the owners of the rivals of WWE, they're also the EVPs, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks and Tony Khan, basically the four most powerful people in the company, putting on the kind of wrestling that Meltzer specifically likes, and then he over reviews every single match, and it's like a 4 3/4 star average kind of thing, and it's like, man. And once again, you're getting phone calls from the boss of AEW while you're doing podcasting and admitting it. It's like, how can you at any point say I'm completely unbiased? And I'll give you another example. I've interviewed people, and then afterwards I thought, he was a really lovely guy, and then I may have wanted to say something about them that I then didn't, because I thought, I don't want to hurt the feelings, or they might disagree, or whatever it might be. You have any kind of relationship with someone, or you meet them in person, you treat them differently to somebody you've never met. They're not that anonymous person, or they're not like an idea of a person. They're a human being, and now they're a human being with thoughts and feelings like everybody else. And then you can't be unbiased towards them in one way or another. It's just not how it works, especially when you're best friends now.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, you need to get paid, Dave. If you're doing it all these years and playing gatekeeping and being the biggest evangelist in AEW history, you need to get paid for it. If you're not doing it and getting paid, then I'm disappointed.
One more quote here.
I'm checking my phone. Hold on a second. Nope, you didn't call.
No, very good.
Sorry.
And then there was also this. He once again said that it was the most ill-spent money Tony Khan probably ever did regarding paying Rusev, or among them. I shouldn't say the most, but among them was that one, because it's like this guy wouldn't do anything in AEW. That's only according to one side of the story, I guess. And then he goes to WWE.
Can I stop you right there,
yes.
please? I'm sorry. I just remembered how they brought him in as the best man. You think Rusev wanted to do that as Miro?
Dude, wasn't that with Billy Mitchell? Or am I thinking of something else? The gamer
No, it
guy.
was with Kip Sabian or somebody like that, right?
What was
yeah,
the,
like
what
in
was
the
the
Joey
Miro
Janela crew.
Billy
It was
Mitchell
like the Joey
thing?
Janela little angle or something. Jelly, as Jim Cornette calls him.
Billy Mitchell Miro. Yeah, that was the wedding thing. I'm looking at a picture of Billy Mitchell Miro.
Billy Mitchell, the King of Kong?
The King of Kong.
Oh, my God.
They booked him.
All right, so you're telling me that Miro, coming from the big Russian nightmare over there in WWE, coming out with the tank at WrestleMania versus John Cena, said, you know what I haven't done? I haven't been the best man at a wedding. And I haven't dyed my hair blonde. And that's the first impression you're giving us of Miro.
Yes.
That's him doing that, not Tony Khan and the supposed creative in AEW. Come on, man.
Here's where it's going to get really infuriating. This is from Meltzer's pen.
I don't give. I'm only mad because he's not getting paid. I'm only mad because he's not getting paid.
It says he would. It's a guy like this wouldn't do anything in AEW, and then he goes to WWE and he's putting over Dominic Mysterio. I mean, he wouldn't put over guys twice as good as Dominic in AEW. Who's twice as good as Dominic in AEW? Name them now. There you go. Who's twice as good as Dominic Mysterio in WWE?
Oh, yeah, right
very
now,
few.
You know what? That could be a good segue for Logan Paul, because Logan Paul's right up there with Dominic as the two top heels in the company, in my estimation. Yeah, I'm trying to think. There are better athletes than Dominic in AEW, better workers. You can get mad all you want, Dave, but Dominic makes us remember stuff, and that's including things that happen on WWE. So I'm not talking about WWE's better than AEW. I'm talking about Dominic's one of the best heels right now anywhere in any promotion, and gives me something to remember, laugh, or if you're an actual fan that believes, get mad each and every week and hope someone kicks this guy's butt. And hopefully it's his father who just came back, where they had a really great segment on Raw.
They booed Ray. That's how over Dominic is.
Yeah.
Who's that over?
You keep my father's name out of your mouth, the Eddie Guerrero thing. And for people that say, oh, he's stealing from Eddie Guerrero. Yes, he is. That's why he's a heel. But he's entertaining, and I like what he does. And guess what? There's not a whole lot that I like in any company right now, but I don't fast forward through Dominic Mysterio. I don't.
Not enough flips. That's the problem. That's why he doesn't get those 5-star matches.
You know what?
Just not enough flips.
And that's why he's down on Rusev when he says Rusev doesn't want to do anything. It means, why doesn't Rusev want to spike Badness back? He doesn't want to do anything. Why doesn't he want to get drowned in a fish tank or have somebody put things under his fingernails? He doesn't want to do anything. That just proves how much of a mark you are, and how, if you care about these wrestlers, why do you want to see them do the stunt work that could kill them? Do you see what I mean? There's some kind of 1984 double think here.
The best thing about that is, I really didn't like that match. There was just too many hardcore things. It was just too that 5.5 stars. And then he'll overrate stuff that he admits he hates because it's AEW. That's how it goes. Right. Before we just get on to Logan Paul, there is one more thing just to wrap up this thought, I guess. Is that once again, Miro was sent home for 18 months, and you said, well, you know, if you disagree with it, I'll just send you home. What you probably didn't mean was, I'm going to send you home with full pay. Because if a professional wrestler, an independent contractor, is going to continually, supposedly, disagree or refuse to do what you ask of them, at some point that becomes firing with cause or whatever it might be. The WWE Andrade thing that's going on now. And then surely, unless AEW contracts are just not that well written, Surely you can just send them home without pay and just say, well, you're not doing what I'm asking you, and you're not doing what I'm paying you to do. So surely you don't have to send them home with full pay to let them run out the clock. There's got to be something else.
They breached their contract. He breached his contract. In other words, you can tie him up, you can sit him at home without pay. Didn't you say on your thing that they removed like Ray Phoenix's merchandise and all these guys' merch from the store that they weren't using or sitting at home?
I didn't say that, but like with the Ray Phoenix thing, he was meant to go across to WWE at the same time as Penta. But the Tony Khan thing is, as soon as he gets wind that they're not going to re-sign, he will take them off television and pay them. But with Ray Phoenix specifically, he had an injury time 6 months tacked on to his contract, which was basically out of spite. But once again, I mean, you're paying him to sit at home. So I don't understand that thinking. But then there's other people like, your Keith Lees or your Britt Bakers or whoever else it might be who are ready to go, sat there doing nothing. And I sort of think, well, they're not doing anything. Well, what about Britt Baker? I mean, was she difficult to deal with? And is Tony Khan so not interested in any kind of conflict or confrontation, he would rather pay people their contract out than have to deal with them?
Well, I mean, you got to give him credit, though. He does take care of the wrestlers from a financial standpoint. He cares about the wrestlers. He's donated money to the Dutch with his thing. That's another point in contention.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you and I, Meltzer, never. That's that you talk about feelings and stuff like that. Maybe he has none. That's not an accusatory thing, but he seems to always say these things that put him in a position of being very apathetic just because he didn't like a take from Dutch Mantel, or maybe he didn't like the way Dutch wrestled. So therefore, he's not a good human being. And I'm gonna just say something really mean or heartless during the lowest time medically in this guy and his wife's life at the time, a very difficult time. Nah, I mean, forgive but not forget in that vein. But Tony Khan, on the other hand, maybe kindness is a weakness. He seems to be a really good guy. I've never heard a bad word about the way he treats somebody. Now, he plays promoter a little bit. That thing about pulling merch from the store and stuff, that's wrestling promoter 101 in a way. Take every bit of the identity of this person out of the company, but continue to pay. And from what I heard in this modern time, what's the most affordable talent making? Low six figures, if not more?
WWE main roster's $350.
No, but what's the lowest person in AEW making?
Don't know. That's a good question. I really don't know.
I mean, in the early days, I know there were some people like the Janellas or the Big Swells and other people that were not getting paid a whole lot of money. And then there were people getting paid high six, low seven a year. Now we're seeing in the range of Okada and Mercedes Moné, like pretty good sevens, deep into the seven figures. So you have to wonder, like, how are the low paid people? The low paid people are getting paid like even $150 to work once a week or once in a while. That's a good living in 2025.
I'll tell you, working once a week, I don't think anyone's worked once a week. I don't think anyone's had 50 matches in AEW this year, or will have at the end of the year, I think.
It's a shame because you know what it is? You have these things of, they seem to get really creatively bankrupt with a character very quickly and tired of it to where you can't follow. Cody was one that was on TV almost every week. Even the Bucks, they went away, came back, went away, came back. Kenny Omega, obviously medical reasons. That dude's super tough, and I worry about him with some of the physical stuff in the ring because he's an incredible athlete, but diverticulitis and other things can't be controlled. But there's a lot of stop-start with a lot of even the top guys in the company, even Adam Page, Swerve, Daniel Bryan's he can kind of come off the shelf and work once in a while. But you look at that, I'll talk about these two guys, make it three in a way. Samoa Joe, Adam Page, Swerve. Kind of dipping in and out of different ways when you start to kind of get behind Swerve as a singles, then he's going to team up with Will Ospreay. Then Well, Ospreay's out right now, right? With injury, I believe.
Oh, yeah, he won't be back to Wellington next year. Neck
Well,
surgery.
I mean, that's to me, that's just something that happens. But there is a very stop-start mentality creatively with AEW. Every time I kind of tune in, it's kind of like, wow, this feels like an entirely different company. Well, Moxley's the one constant for good or bad that you've seen over the past, 1 to 2 years?
Yeah, with the Death Riders, but I think he joined didn't he join in the first year, Moxley?
Well, the first year he was there?
No, the first 2019, I thought he joined the company. It was one of almost the originals.
No, he was the original, one of the originals, because he came out at Double or Nothing out of nowhere for the Jericho Omega match. You see, there are things I remember. He gave Jericho the double arm DDT, then he attacked Omega, and then that visual was awesome on top of like the chips, gave him the finish, and that's how it ended with him standing over Omega at the end of Double or Nothing. Am I correct with that?
You are exactly right about that, yeah, as well. I find it funny around that time that...
That's the AEW I wanted to succeed. That's the AEW that I was like, this is exciting.
Yeah.
Something different, an alternative to WWE.
Yeah, I think when Punk left, he really lost the way.
They never capitalized on Punk creatively. Think about it. Outside of the real fight, when did it ever have a buzz? When he came out at the first dance in Chicago, and then, creatively with Punk, that's something I get what Punk was trying to do too. I appreciate that he wanted to work with some of the younger talent, like Will Hobbs and other people, but I believe he wasted a lot of matches in AEW that could have been big money matches, like even in England. I love the fact that he worked Joe. I love the fact that he came out, what was the MJF match, where he came out with the old ROH music, the Mizura Terror or whatever it's called, with the Triple X like sweatsuit. See, these are things that if you're really digging into ROH and the past of these characters, there's a great way to do it. They just never caught the lightning that they could have with these characters.
To wrap up the point, I guess, is just I find it funny that Dave Meltzer's trying to do a character assassination on Rusev and ends up more, when you dig through it a bit more, burying Tony Khan. That's just kind of the amusing bit of it. It's like, we're saying that Rusev's done all these things. Well, Tony Khan could have handled it a lot differently. And also, we're only getting one side as well.
Well, isn't it the wording that it sounds like it's literally a memo from The Office?
Yeah, basically, yeah. It pretty much is. We're going to move on. Jade Cargill. Now, we spoke about Jade Cargill a couple of months ago when we talked about SummerSlam 2025 pay-per-view. She was soundly beaten by Tiffany Stratton. And we're going to be talking more about booking in 2025. It's been sort of underwhelming across the board, I think you would agree. And basically, you've said that yourself just before. So, just over 7 minutes, Jade Cargill was beaten by Tiffany Stratton for the WWE. Not for the WWE. She wasn't ever the champion. Tiffany was still the champion. And it sort of just felt like the end of the Jade Cargill experiment. So it felt like it was like almost slapping you in the face. It was like the big match to build to the second biggest pay-per-view of the year, if you ignore the Rumble. Depends on the viewership. The Rumble actually gets a bigger viewership than SummerSlam, but anyway, that's not the point. It felt like that she was done. She descended as high as she was going to go. WWE couldn't get any more out of her, and then she was going to drop down the card somewhat. And that didn't happen. And how it went was she sort of stayed round the women's main event scene for a little while longer. Then there was a three-way between Tiffany, Nia, and Jade, where Jade got thrown into the steps, or basically threw herself into the steps, it looked like, from what we were seeing. Chopped her face up like you wouldn't believe. Like you could see a brain through like the broken skin. It was disgusting. She had to take a month off. She comes back after the injury, turns heel on Tiffany Stratton in the most obvious way, the hand raise and then the whole thing. It was like dead obvious it was going to go that way.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that before it continued. So go on, let's do the heel turn.
Well, the heel turn, and this is just like the Logan Paul thing. We're going to do a what went right, but the what went wrong at the end of Raw. If you see that, just come on. It's too telegraphed in a way. Now, even though they did it with the Hogan Orndorff thing, we talked about that during the WrestleMania 1 watch along on Patreon. When I look at it, it's like the suddenness of just doing it at the highest point. if you keep holding her hand up and it's like 5 beats, 10 beats, 12 beats, 50, all right, you're going to turn on her. You know, they tried to be cute and have her walk away and then turn into it, but production could have covered that as well, because this is too long. Maybe they're just trying to like think it's going to happen there when she walks away. Oh, it did happen. But a close-up of Tiffany with Jade just coming back out of nowhere and just pickling her from the side, that would have been more sudden. You see what I mean, for TV. But yeah, the turn, it's just your classic Hogan Orndorff, but there was a different way to do it. Suddenly, at the, you know what, if you did it at the high point, say this. If there was post-match whatever, and then Tiffany saved Jade from getting a double beatdown or something, and she picks her up, and right from there, Jade just lays her out and walks off. And then the next week or day or whatever, we get the explanation about what she was thinking when she turned on her. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I came in here, I tried to be a nice girl and everybody liked me, and I saw what they got me. I got knocked out on the card. SummerSlam, this girl beat me, and you know what? Nobody called me. Nobody checked on me. Nobody asked if I was okay. I was at my lowest point. I realized, you know what? Nobody cares about me, so why should I care about them? It's a truth. And you did get knocked out on the card, and you know what? Now I'm doing it for me. All you people, you know what? People think that I'm like them. Look at me and look at you. There's nobody like me. You people aren't like me. This blonde Barbie doll, Charlotte Flair wannabe, is not like me. This is the era of Jade Cargill. Wouldn't that have explained everything?
You don't know me.
Everything. You don't know me. All that's missing is when the violins play. Something happens.
Well, you laid out a far better scenario in 2 minutes there than they did.
I literally
in
just thought of that, by the way. What the hell are these writers doing 80 hours a week?
That's because, like, Raw's one thing. SmackDown has been a dead show for a while, man. It is tough to get through. Just nothing seems to happen. And both shows drag at the moment. That's its own subject for another day. But with the Jade thing, if it had been laid out the way that you just did with that scenario, would have made all the sense in the world. But it just kind of just happened. And then on Saturday night's main event, Jade was the Jade of old, of the AEW Jade, did the power moves, did a 5-minute match, and won. And
female Goldberg.
Female Goldberg. But she was brought in as the female Roman Reigns. Babyface, forced, and way more than Roman Reigns. She wasn't ready for it. She was brought in, like, she started doing the tag team thing, Bianca Belair. She was always the babyface in peril. I guess WWE were trying to, you know, break her down and remold her in their own image kind of thing, which they do to everybody. And the thing is like, when you've got the blueprint of success with Jade Cargill, who's super limited in AEW and is still limited now, you've already got a blueprint for success. Same with Goldberg. Same with Big Show. They booked Big Show so much worse than WCW.
Why are you teaching them how to wrestle on WWE Live on TV? That's my question, right?
Yeah.
They're teaching her how to wrestle every week, and it didn't work.
Well, there's two things to ask you. One, the whole we have to change somebody's character, regardless of whether the previous one was working or not. And two, I just feel like they missed the peak with Jade Cargill, because it felt like after SummerSlam, and we even put it in the thumbnail, she's done as a top flight character. Or I put it in the thumbnail, because I was sure of that fact, and I think you were kind of sure of the fact as well. And they missed the peak, moved on a couple of months, then they've done the character change, not really fully fleshed it out as to why, and why everything's changed. But I forgot then that WWE does 50-50 booking. But it seems to be 50-50 booking over the span of months and months, and there's no real rhyme or reason to it. It just feels like a really creatively bankrupt year across the board, and this is another example.
How many times has Dutch said on Storytime? By the way, I've been watching the clips. Dutch has been on fire lately. I'm happy to see him really on point with everything he's saying. How many times has Dutch said, now I'm not saying this in a way that anybody can do it, but this stuff is not hard to figure out. It's not hard to book wrestling. Keep it simple, stupid, right? The easiest way to book wrestling is where are we going to be and how do we work our way backwards? In other words, usually with the Royal Rumble, you figure out who's winning and then you already have WrestleMania booked because the person who wins the Rumble is probably going to win the title. With Jade and especially with Tiffany Stratton, I believe Tiffany Stratton fell really stale after a while with the Charlotte match, and they didn't know what to do with her, and she was just there saying the word, saying Tiffy time, and that was about it. Such a great athlete, such a great look, on par with Jade in a lot of ways, if you think about it. Of course, better high flyer and stuff like that. You don't know what to do with this girl. So now you have two girls you don't know what to do with, and you think 50-50 booking. Now they're both over. No, they're not. How's that?
Tiffany's an interesting one because she was kind of she was like a babyface by proxy with Charlotte because the fans just rejected Charlotte at the time. And now she's, doing better with Alexa Bliss as a tag team. But Tiffany just continued being a babyface. And she didn't have... she's really pretty. She does the high flying and everything, that kind of thing. But as a personality, she never came across as that much of a babyface to me. So there never seemed to be that... almost that motivation, I guess, for a change back or forth. Or it almost shades of grey. Almost tweener for a while was Tiffany. And I'm wondering, because she's now off, she's going to take some time off, niggling injuries and knocks and whatever else you want to call. She just banged up and bruised after probably all those backflips off the top rope to the floor where she concussed herself, or it seemed like she had.
Yeah, she might have been working with more injuries than we realized. This could be a good thing for her because, like I said, she was getting stale. The best cure for that is to go away for a while, let people miss you, and come back. Now, that also says... obviously, she was put in the position where she was a heel. It was easy to understand. Barbie doll, better than everybody else. Prettiest moonsault ever. She's a heel. The thing with Charlotte panicked them because, number one, they didn't expect that to happen. Now, I said before, you want me to lay something else that could have saved Charlotte. Why didn't you not show her? Because she's another amazing athlete. Right up there with Tiffany, even Jade in a lot of ways, but athletically, her and Tiffany are like twins for what they can do. Why didn't you show the journey like Triple H recovering from the torn quad, show her rehabbing, working out? Instead, you put her on a yacht in a bikini. Are we supposed to get behind that? Do you see what I mean? If you show like, this is a girl that can do stuff that some of the guys can't even do. Look at her working, CrossFit, bodybuilding, working out, rehabbing, coming back stronger than ever. Give her a few locals to go over on. Now you got something. It's not hard to figure out. If an idiot like me can figure it out, anybody can figure it out.
With Jade now, so she's a heel. Apparently she's going to be doing the Goldberg thing that, to be honest, she should have been doing when she came into the company, for goodness sake.
She should have been Ryback. Let's give a more modern touch. 1, 2, 3 people in the ring, beat them all, stack them.
Where for her now? I mean, is it fair to say that they missed the peak on her and now they're sort of in a rebuilding phase with her? Or do you think she can basically recapture and build on what she had when she was TBS champion in AEW?
They didn't miss the peak because she wasn't a heel. Now she's a heel. It's a whole new day, a whole new character, whole new push, and hopefully the machine gets behind the heel character. Here's the thing with Jade. How do you book Jade as somebody that's very, how should I say, kind of stiff? She's a big bodybuilder type. How are you going to get the gears in a match? The shine's one thing. The heat's definitely easy for Jade. When it comes time for a babyface to blow a comeback and Jade needs to bump and sell, feed, needs to pick the pace up, how's that going to look? Is she going to be prepared? Is she not so green now? Is she have enough experience where she understands the gears of a wrestling match as a heel, where you need to really, literally, your entire win needs to be gone after the match is over because you literally bumped and fed so much in the comeback and you're literally exhausted. Is she ready for that? We're gonna find out.
So one person who doesn't have that much experience in the ring compared to most, yet is pretty darn amazing for the matches he's had and the experience he has in professional wrestling, and WWE specifically, is Logan Paul. Now, he made his return to WWE Raw this past Monday after a relatively extended absence. It was a good few months, I think, anyway. And also he's got things to celebrate since he's been absolved of any blame in the Crypto Zoo situation somehow. I don't know, from the class action lawsuit for all the people who bought that doomed cryptocurrency nonsense. Anyway, he was back and he joined the Vision. Now, this is what went right from Stevie. So, Stevie, what went right here? Because you've not told me what you spotted.
Thank you, James. So we talk about nuance and details, the little details that matter. And this is something I haven't seen mostly anybody do in any company for a very long time. And this is something Raven taught me and other things. And this goes along with the fact we talked about taking bumps with long hair, I believe last week, or we touched on it a few times. But I'm going to show this to you, and I want you to see what I see as far as what went right. And I'm talking about, this is the tiniest nuance and detail, what went right you'll ever talk about. But with my nature, this is something I appreciate. All right, I'm going to roll right here, and you tell me, everybody comment below as you're watching this, pause it, comment below. Let me know if you see what I see in this what went right. What do you see?
I mean, him grabbing the back of his head.
Grabbing the back of his head on a bump. How many times do you see people that take a back bump off a shoulder block or anything else that don't grab their head to allow space? He takes it, like the pacing of the selling. This is something that is not learned, but somebody that just has it, that just gets it, that retains it, that remembers it. I'm going to play it again because when he hits, he obviously, he might tap his head, but the way he sells is literally that way as they walk past him. Look, still selling right there. And if you go forward, I'm going to keep going forward here. Look at this. As he's trying to ponder whether he's going to get back in the ring to help Punk, he's still grabbing his head and looking back. Now, they cut here. I want to back it up again. He's selling, but there's two parts to this because there's very much a timing part. They're beating Punk up, and production gets a great shot of him watching them beat Punk up. Now, this is what I'm talking about at the end of Raw. Man, it's so much pro wrestling. I don't like it. It takes so long to say, should I hit Paul or should I hand the brass knucks to him? That's WWE. That's pro wrestling. That's BS. This here is the Logan Paul spin or touch on should I or shouldn't I? Not the WrestleMania 9 Hogan. No, should I or shouldn't I? As he shoves Brett back. I'll never get over that. But watch this. Should I? Now I'm going to go to the back. I'm still selling the back of my head hitting the LED board. Just that little shrug, trying to shake it off. Not the I'm out cold, not the, oh my God, my neck's hurt, I got a neck brace on, you know what I mean, or any of that stuff. But look, he's like, grimacing from, these are little things that I appreciate. Maybe I'm desperate. I'm desperate for anything good on these shows, but it means a lot. He looked back. Look, looks back, sells. Man, I got my neck just kind of, it's stiff. I'm grimacing. I'm looking back right here. Should I, even this right here. I'm looking, maybe I should go back. No, maybe I should. You know what? I'm going to start psyching myself up. Should I go back in? No, I'm going to go back in. Dude. I mean, do you see what I'm saying with these little things that this, well, you can call them celebrity or not celebrity, but non-WWE full-time wrestler can get better than the full-time wrestlers. I don't understand why wrestlers can't get it. That they're so thinking about the next spot that they don't sell. That's what makes Logan Paul better than 98% of anybody in the wrestling business right now. What say you?
Do you have a hesitation of calling Logan Paul one of the absolute best because he's not learning the business like most pro wrestlers, especially in your day and after and before? Just anyone like not in the last 10 years, basically. He's not learning the wrestling business as a pro wrestler. He's learning it as almost like monkey see, monkey do. You do this, I do that, work everything out prior. Or does that not bother you?
No, I'll say it's actually a benefit because you know what? How many people have fallen flat and become busts by going through the Performance Center, the NXT, the entire system needs to be revamped. He's proof of that. They train him based on his strengths and hide his weaknesses. Are they playing favorites because he's a YouTube star, a celebrity? Of course. But this is the difference between Logan Paul being allowed to be Logan Paul turned up to 11, teaching him how to wrestle, and he has to have a passion for this. Do you know what I mean? Money's one thing, but Logan Paul at this point doesn't need money. He didn't need money before he started this. But he has a passion for it, and he learns. But the thing is, too, the system on how it teaches, they teach him differently than they teach the people in the NIL program or the people coming in to be reset and broken down and built back up again. Do you see what I mean? So Jade Cargill could be every bit as over as Logan Paul if they let Jade Cargill be the Jade Cargill that was in AEW. But they had to break her down. Now they're going to finally try to do it right.
Logan Paul had, every advantage, well, pretty much in life as well as YouTube. It turns out one of their close relatives was like one of the main execs in YouTube, so they knew how to game it from the off. But, he was a celebrity beforehand, doing all the gimmick boxing stuff. He had a big name before he got... I'd never watched YouTube at all, remarkably, despite the fact I did loads of YouTube stuff. Even I'd heard of him. So he's obviously really well known with, with kids and whatnot. But... I've lost my fucking train of thought.
Well, I want to...
I know what my train of thought is.
Okay.
Sorry. I've got a really shitty question to ask you, that's why. Sorry. With that being said, Stevie, and this is obviously going to go into the title of the thumbnail.
Face? What are you going to say and ask me? You have such a smirk on your face.
Yeah, here it is. Is Logan Paul better than everybody in AEW?
Oh, come on, man. Do you really want me to... Do you want a Piper situation with me?
Yeah. No, I'll give you some names then. And I won't make it...
No. I'm going to say
easy.
Logan Paul is better than everybody in AEW.
John Moxley.
Yes.
Darby Allin.
1,000%.
Will Ospreay.
Yes.
Swerve Strickland.
Yes.
Kenny Omega. Young Bucks.
Yes.
Why? There's some big names there. Why is Logan Paul better than them?
Because he's a character. I can hate or love Logan Paul. And he's every bit as athletic as all of them. He's proven it. He keeps debuting. But by the way, you know what Logan Paul also does? When he debuts a move, a spot, whatever he does, he doesn't debut all 12 at the same time. He doesn't give you everything. He makes you something special happens in a Logan Paul match every time he has it.
And do you know who used to do that? And he never gets the credit for it? Goldberg. He used to debut a new move once every week or two when he was on Nitro or whatever. And it was always a big deal that he'd break out a new move.
You know,
we've never seen that from Goldberg before. And it was a big deal. Same with Logan Paul.
You know, I also always used to do that when he was way more athletic. The Giant. Big Show. Would do a moonsault. Elbow off the top. Leg drop. He would debut new stuff. But yes... Logan Paul, I remember mostly everything Logan Paul's been involved with. And I know you're smirking because they're going to come for me right now, but I'm saying he's better than 98% of the WWE roster as well. so WWE fans can come after me. I think they should put the belt on Logan Paul. And I'll give you, you say the vision sucks. I agree with you. And do you want to hear my idea on how Logan Paul can be even more over, and everybody that works him, you can have twice as many matches with Logan Paul?
Kick out Bron Breakker.
What's that?
Kick out Bron Breakker. Because he's the only real breakout star of the division. So then it's just Logan and then his heavy Bronson Reed behind him.
No.
Okay.
I have a different take on that. Even though those guys shouldn't be together, they are stars on their own. Bronson Reed.
I know, that's the thing. The Vision's just such a terrible group. And then the rumor is that you want Austin Theory to join. Just a pack of people with like nothing in common.
It's just
and,
like,
like
what
no
do we got?
chemistry
Hey,
on
what do you
screen.
got? You got this and you got it. You're going to be a team. The Vision. So, Tony Gurria. What a head of hair on
group.
that guy. You were talking about Tony Gurria had the real version of Liberace hair on Patreon. So,
Dude. Oh, please, you've got to sign up to the Patreon. If nothing else, just to see Tony Khan. Tony Khan's got the same hair as Tony Gurria.
That's true.
My goodness me. All these Tonys floating
Hey,
around.
what are you, hate bot? That's callback.
I'm
Tony
an
was right
organic.
about hate
I'm
bots, though. He was right about that.
He was right. I'm organic hate.
Here's my Logan
Fully
Paul
fledged.
idea. Logan Paul, from what we know, is an absolutely terrible person. From what we know or assume, he is a terrible person. Okay? Independently of that, I can still appreciate the talent this guy has, both on the mic, the poise, the presence, the work in the ring, but he is a universally hated human being. So therefore, the baby faces and the heels all hate him. If they can agree on one thing as baby faces and heels in WWE, is that Logan Paul is a terrible human being. That gives you twice the amount of matches, and it gives you a heel that you hope, no matter who it is, beats Logan Paul. And that's why I believe Logan Paul should be not a champion in WWE, but the champion, and he should beat CM Punk for the world title.
98% you said of WWE. So who are the people above Logan Paul, as far as you can tell?
Roman Reigns, CM Punk, to a degree, not the push, LA Knight. That would be a short list of people. Reed and Breaker aren't there yet, but they have the potential to do that. You know who else I would put right up there? Would be Drew McIntyre. But the push doesn't match the ability. I'm talking about people that are figured in. Seth Rollins, I mean, he just has so many gimmicks and he's Paul Orndorff times 100. Babyface, heel, baby. I'm talking about consistent character work. It's CM Punk, Roman Reigns, no particular order, LA Knight, but Drew McIntyre's cooled down. I would say Cody Rhodes as well is right up there, but those people can dip in and out. But Logan Paul always seems to bat 1,000 every time he's on TV, pay-per-view, or any kind of special that has to do with WWE. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm cooling off on Cody big time. Like massively. It's not even like, man, he should. I really hate Cody Rhodes. I just kind of
He's got to become Homelander. He's got to turn heel.
He's got to do something, because I'm not even sure that. It's just that it's just becoming all Melba toast. It's just, it's just plain Jane. His matches are fine. They're all exactly the same. A bunch of kickouts and finishes at the end. Just every performance is the same from Cody. At least, once again, you can say the difference with Dom or Logan Paul is, man, you remember every match they have, and every new move they break out or way to cheat kind of thing. With Cody, man, it's just all just one kind of beige run.
But Cody is something that you might look at it and want something fresh, reliable, as reliable as they come. And that 2-year story that finished at WrestleMania 40, that's in the WrestleMania 40 finish, the last 15 minutes are probably the most memorable in WrestleMania history. I'm just saying, that was a big exhale, callbacks, interference. The story was finished. Cody deserves, just based on dude, the Hell in the Cell match with the torn pec and fighting, he deserves all the grace in the world. Cody is reliable. Cody, like a Savage or a Hogan, always deserves to be in the upper to main event. He's there. So the only thing that can save him and give him that jolt and maybe another title run after he loses this one is a heel run. That's my belief. But here's the thing. Please don't do this, WWE, if you even watch the show. Hey, you're over as a heel. Hey, you're over as a heel. We're going to put you together. Do not put Logan Paul and Dominic Mysterio together. Let them exist in their own heel universes. But they're going to do it now. Sorry.
We already need to go to our final segment. This is what went wrong. And it's Ilja Dragonov. And am I right, Aleister Black?
It might as well be. No. Nathan Frazier.
Sorry, Aleister Black was the week before. Yeah, Nathan Frazier. So there you go. I only heard about this. I missed it when I watched it because I was doing other things. This could have gone horrifically wrong. So what happened?
Well, there's two parts to what went wrong here. By the way, I'm really, really impressed with Nathan Frazier. I'm impressed with this kid. Dragonov to an extent, but I can't see his style being for the long term, for his own health. He just came back from a neck injury and surgery, and he's still doing these dangerous spots. Number one, I think right here you can tell just from this photo before we start playing the video, this here gives me vibes of Ridge Holland and Big E. Why are you giving any suplexes like this on the floor? Here we go. I don't have to. Why? And he says nothing personal before he does it. And I would do that Captain America after the elevator fight. Kind of feels personal. Well, let's go in slow-mo. There's no protection of this. This is a Benoit German suplex. Now, he didn't land on top of his head, but it's still no give, German suplex. Only this side of the audience and maybe here sees it. Now, for TV is whatever, but you still have a live crowd. He takes this right here and does his fire up. Now, I will say there's a what went right within this part of the what went wrong. They're going to do a belly to back or a German off the top rope. Now, the what went right is it's a struggle. It's a fight. Nathan Frazier is not giving it to Dragonov. So let's talk about this. Now, that first elbow is a live round. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Slow-mo. Boom, right in the nose, which I think Dragonov likes to get stiffed for some reason. Here's another one. Now he turns his head.
Dude, Dragonov's triceps are out of this world at the moment. I mean, I know he had some time off, but it's funny how a lot of people have time off and then they come back bigger than ever.
It's that Florida order, B12.
It must be.
So I'm looking at this, and I'm going to point out some what went right, the struggle here. Also, the steady camera angle after this. By the way, after he takes the first one, he turns that head. I love this camera angle, don't you? That's awesome. Right there. And just
I do like the wall of video. Like these days, it's so much better than when they used to have, you know, when they just went to HD and then they used that same damn set for years on end, whether it's pay-per-view or Raw or SmackDown or whatever it was. Yeah. I like that it changes week to week depending on how many tickets they've sold.
Which, because there was a story about how many tickets they didn't sell. I don't know if we're going to
4,200 they sold. It's got a bit of a funny thing because they ran Salt Lake City 2 nights in a row. Friday SmackDown, then Saturday night's main event. And it's expensive enough as it is. So why would you'd only go to one?
Yeah. And you could see both for free on TV. So some people might not want to either. Yeah. So, and keep that in mind. There's 4,200 people in the crowd. Sure, people are watching on TV, but also you're not getting paid a whole lot just for being a TV. Let's call it what it is. But watch this. Another elbow. Dragonov falls. I still love the camera angle. Now, in this vein, Nathan Frazier's going up to the top. I like this. Chop him. Literally chop the leg out from under him. Back chop. A little tribute to Val Venus and myself. Back chops. Used to do it on...
currently Gunther as well.
Yes, as well. So, as Dragonov climbs up, he shows a lot of character here where he's going to go for it and go up there. Now, I'm going to point out, like I said, there's a lot that went right here. The main one went wrong. Now, obviously, a German on the outside, you shouldn't even do it in the first place. But as he's up here, and I'll fast forward, and he's hitting Nathan Frazier. They're fighting. That's great. Nathan Frazier's getting ready. Now here, you've seen it with Brett and Owen in the cage match. You've seen it with Daniel Bryan for the belly-to-back suplex. When they're standing up there or holding, there's a 5 to 10 second kind of let the fans get on their feet. Oh my God, they're both on the top. You know, you can take your time there. But what's he do? Watch. He's not ready. You already knew what was going to happen. He's not ready. Look at how close. Slow-mo. His head hit. There's no missing there. His head hit.
Isn't that funny? He went and grabbed his leg on the landing. Did you notice that?
You could pop a quad out or something, or a hamstring, but he might not be able to feel his right leg. This here is just, look, he doesn't even have him, but we're still going to go. All you had to do was waist lock him. 1, 2, 3, go. And I think Nathan Frazier was trying to do a moonsault out of this. Look. Unnecessary. Unnecessary right there. Now, he kicks out.
I was going to say, go back again, because I'm interested. Do you think that there was a timing issue, or do you think that Ilja Dragonov just lost his balance? Because he seems to be going very, very quickly and almost falling backwards.
No, but look, he doesn't have him there. If you don't have him, get down, chop him, forearm a few times, or chop him again and start it over. I know you're under a certain amount of time, but you don't rush this part of it. Yes, he lost his footing, but usually, look, and Nathan Frazier looks like he's jumping for a moonsault as well, right? And Dragonov just pulls him down, and there they go. Now there's a third what went wrong to this. I just feel like it shouldn't be a finish. Watch. He grabs him for a power bomb right here, which he really stuffs him on this. Now what went right in this? Watch Nathan Frazier. What's he doing? Fighting, still getting powerbomb. How do you feel about Dragonov's finish, James?
As a powerbomb?
No, afterwards. This is the finish. The powerbomb's the setup.
That was a really good powerbomb.
Yeah, it was. But look at the finish. What the finish is, the guy's laying here, right? Dragonov winds up, and as the person is laid there with no room and no way to tuck their chin, comes down and basically smothers them with a forearm. Watch.
Do you know what? That's the Dan Severn Michael Bisping finisher. That is from UFC 100.
Oh, so that was a real finish.
Dude,
So
Yeah.
What?
Henderson knocked Bisping clean out, and then when he saw he was down and out, he then dropped the full-on forearm. That's the Dan Henderson.
Well, look at this. Is this worked? No. He tries to tuck his chin, but it's like it's a forearm that can literally knock you out, and your head isn't even there to snap back and absorb the blow. So it's real. I like that he winds up. It's good for his character, but watch. Boom.
Can you just rewind like a 2 seconds? Because there's something I picked up recently that really annoys me. Right there, stop. It's Michael Cole standing up at commentary constantly. It irritates me to... A lot of things he does irritate me to no end, but that's among the top of it.
Is that for
Why
the
is he
GoPro?
stood up?
Is that for the GoPro?
That's another UFC thing. He's probably seen Joe Rogan or whatever on the commentator cameras, or Daniel Cormier, and he's now doing it, and I find that really irritating.
Yeah, but isn't it on social media or YouTube where the commentators react and they have like a GoPro or action cam there?
Yeah, that's what they got from UFC.
Yeah, but that's what they're doing there. They're doing that for that camera to put up separately the match.
Mm-hmm.
But
Still annoys me, though. I wish the commentators sit down. I think that started when Pat McAfee started doing the standing up and dancing stuff, which is fine for him. It is not fine for a 60-year-old Michael Cole.
Is he 60 now?
He's got to be near enough 60.
Boom, 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 boom.
56.
Boom, 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 boom. 2 years older than me. Boom.
Okay, then we just
Boom.
paused the show then for a
Boom.
bit of a conference. Should we do the Jey Uso neck break thing? And Steve went, yeah, it's kind of obvious. It's just missed timing. We don't need to rewatch it. So that is, we're not going to get what went wrong on that. And because, once again, I have a hard out that we've already missed by 20 minutes so far, I really need to go. So, everybody, thank you so much for watching. We're out every single Friday on all podcast platforms as well as YouTube, and a fresh YouTube clip every single day, and fresh shorts every day, if that doesn't sound too weird saying that, on YouTube, and Reels on Facebook. If you go on the WSI Network, I think I renamed it, WSI Network Facebook page, a new fresh reel on there every single day. Same with the Instagram, same with TikTok. We're actually on as well. I never plug it. I should. So there you go. I've done it now. So once again, thank you for making this one of the most watched YouTube shows, wrestling shows in all of YouTube and podcasting and whatnot. And over to Stevie to plug with all his might the Patreon.
Thank you very much, James. I'm glad you called it a show twice to make up for calling it a podcast earlier. I love you once again. I was a little mad earlier, but we made up, and now we're friends once again. Also, I wanted to say James is having the time of his life because I had a piece of gym equipment installed, and it's not centered on the mirror. And he said, your head is exploding right now. So as soon as I stop this show, I'm going to fix and remedy that right away. But I want to thank everybody for watching episode 70 of the Stevie Richards Show. Please subscribe. Click the bell to get notified. And as James said, please subscribe to us on all podcast platforms, as well as social media platforms. And of course, patreon.com/Stevie Richards. I put out the Professional Wrestling Headlock as a preview, as a free preview, Philly accent, and it's up there on Patreon for everybody to watch. I want to gauge interest on a new tier of a virtual wrestling school using the physical smartboard. And on Patreon, we don't have to wait 3 to 5 seconds to pause or do it. I could play things straight through. So there is a benefit to that. And I plan on having a lesson plan, a syllabus. You should know this already. I plan on going all the way with this. So please check out Patreon, the $1 Thank You Brother tier, the $8 producer tier, and maybe another, virtual wrestling school tier. James, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just so everybody knows, you don't have to be signed up to the Patreon whatsoever. Am I right? You can just watch this,
Correct.
not even signed up to Patreon.
Correct.
This is completely free for all. We're going to put a link to that video somewhere that you can find it, especially, at least in the description of this very show. We'll try and pin it to the comments as well, and saying a free preview, nearly 30 minutes, the Pro Wrestling Lockup.
Yeah, and I cut that short. I could have went for an hour. Aha. But also with that was the YouTube version. I have a lot more freedom. The production office to get better. The editing will get better. And I can focus on the actual content without worrying about, pausing and doing all that stuff. So there is, like I said, an immense benefit to it being more of a flow than what we have to avoid here on YouTube with the what went right and also what went wrong. But thank you so much for watching this show. We appreciate you. Also, check out the past interviews James has on WSI. Check out List Mania, my new favorite YouTube channel. Check it out. The newest one is on. I almost got into a fight with Shawn Michaels. I didn't even know it. But, aha. That's
You told me that. You said me in one of the podcasts. That was on one of the shows as well.
I was just trying to be humble. Yes, I almost got into a fight with Shawn Michaels. Thank you so much for watching this show. Catch us next week for part 2 on Roddy Piper.
No, that's not next week. That's not next week. It's fan questions next week, which you've already submitted ages ago. Then we're going to do the Roddy Piper stuff at some point soon, as well as more TNA stuff. More ECW stuff. Not done ECW stuff practically at all on this show somehow. I don't know how, but bow wow.
James is the boss. Catch us for fan questions next week on the Stevie Richards Show. Thank you. And a big Saturday night's main event. There you go.
Smart ass.